what was it, Zorak icon on Discord. It's pretty cool.
Oh, we're live.
Wait, you're muted, MX.
Oh, I am.
Oh my god! I had to put the chat command. I was wondering, like, what the heck are we doing?
Oh my god! You know what's funny is that I mute Slack. I mute Discord, right? I mute Discord. No, I already said Discord. I mute OBS, Discord, and my microphone just to make sure. You know, this happens when it's live, man. You know. Welcome everyone. How are you guys doing?
Doing
good?
Swell.
Good.
Great.
Good. Welcome everyone. This is Armchair Developers episode 5. Oh my god, we're going too far. And I'm your host MX. We're old now. I'm your host MX. We're gonna be delving into all things gaming and streaming related stuff, right? And throw into the mix basically. I would like my guests and my co-hosts to introduce themselves. I would like them to say maybe a little bit of the background in gaming, a little bit maybe your favorite game, why did you start streaming, and maybe your currently favorite streamer or who you have been watching recently to start the conversation. I'm gonna let Lee go first.
Okay, so hey guys, I'm just Lee Belmont, your noble vampire hunter and co-host. I started gaming when I was 1 year old. I guess one of my proudest gaming accomplishments was finishing Donkey Kong Country 1 with the controller upside down. I was a silly kid, what can I say? I started streaming sometime last year. I think it was around like when I graduated, which was like in April. And I did it for several reasons. You know, I mainly did it to kind of have like a temporary job, in addition to having like, the mental health benefits of like talking with people, making a cool community. And let's see, favorite streamer? I like to mix it up every week. This week, my favorite streamer is So. She's super cool. She started getting into Silent Hill speedrunning. She's using, Mike every now and then, and I'm super happy for her. And it's been cool to see her stream grow.
Hopefully, we're gonna have So one day on the podcast, right? On the talk show, I mean. Melissa or Ace in Sunshine, I would like you to go next.
My name is Melissa, Acid Sunshine, and I'm really excited that you guys had me on today. I started gaming. My dad had an original classic NES when they came out, and I had already been born. So that's how long I've had games in my life.
Nice.
You can do the math there. And I started streaming, it'll be 2 years in May. And I wanted to start streaming because I'm a graphic designer and I've been doing a lot of overlays and panels and emotes for people. So I wanted to teach other people how you can do overlays and panels for yourselves so that you didn't have to rely on like paying someone to do it. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun so far. I am also since then gotten to competitive Splatoon and I am a commentator for Splatoon 2.
Dope, pretty dope. Awesome, thanks a lot. Visco, sure. The floor is yours.
Hi, I'm Visco. I started gaming when I was 6 years old, playing Duck Hunt on the Nintendo, and my brother would get mad at me because I would hold the gun right up to the screen. Favorite game is probably The Witcher 1 because even though it's goofy, it's just a fun little game. I recommend anyone try it. I started streaming on Twitch because in real life I'm kind of quiet and I just kind of wanted to throw myself out there and meet people, and it's actually worked great so far. I'm happy to be here. Nice,
dude. Thanks a lot for all of you for joining me tonight. As always, Lee, you guys know Lee already. He's like an all mate. But we are lucky that we can get people every week to be here and be excited about this. And I want to go over later at the end, more about why we're doing this and what this means to the community in general, and also I'm gonna give more opportunity. We're gonna talk a little bit more about at the end. You can promote everything you want, and also if you guys have any questions thought out now, or you think about this is for chat, right? If you think about questions or comments, we can leave it for the end. We can go have a small Q&A, and it can be directed to any one of us or to everyone in general. It doesn't matter. About questions about the comments, the things that they say in general, or questions that you thought out. It doesn't matter. I guess it's just giving you a little bit of if you are a little bit to cover your curiosity, I guess. With no further ado, I want to start. There, we have a lot of spicy stuff tonight, so I want to start right away. We're gonna start with some spice right away, right? We usually start with some streaming here, you know. Oh, let's talk about our experiences, man. You know, like think about it. You know, we're gonna start tonight with oversexualization of women in video games, and this is you know how this format works, right? The format in general is that each one of us will bring a topic, right? And we talk about it over the week, and we say, you know, oh, I was thinking to talk about this, you know, maybe we can bring the talking points, etc., and things like that. And this subject was brought to you by the dearest Melissa here, and I want to give Melissa the floor to have her opening statement and to expand a little bit more, right, on why bring this topic, or you know what you want to talk about in general. So go ahead.
Sure. So my opening statement is that too many games cater to making women overly sexualized for the sake of the male player. It would be nice to have games with women who have real bodies and rely less on what I call anime physics, what many people call anime physics, to make a character more interesting to play. So there are a lot of games that do this really, really poorly, in my opinion, and I'm sure we're going to get into this very soon. But there are a lot of games that also can do this really well. And over the week, we sort of identified those too. So it's going to be really fun to sort of bring it not as like not from a political standpoint, but more from just a way to like celebrate women's bodies and how that can kind of evolve into something a little stronger than what it is now.
Yeah. I guess it's more of like the way at least I like to come to it is, you know, as a listener, as I said before, you know, when we were talking about it, and as a learner. The thing is that I think it's valid. I believe in everyone having valid opinions, right? Because at the end of the day, you know, it is what you like or not, you know, it doesn't matter what it is, but obviously we can recognize, like I would say we gamers, right? We the people, we know, we can recognize we're smarter than that, right? We can see validity, or we can see faults on things, right? And I guess, you know, that's the approach that we are gonna take in general. Like, we don't have to go super spicy, right? I mean, we can, and maybe we will, right? So let me start with a question, right? Is it healthy? Or we can say, yeah, it's healthy to celebrate sexuality in general. However, do you think games need to worry or respect this in general? Right? Maybe think about it in a way that, as a creator, if you're making a game, aren't you the artist actually giving yourself, right, the medium to do whatever you want? And how do gamers, I guess, how do people consume this, right? What do you guys think, Melissa?
I mean, in terms of how you kind of just reorganized it there, if you're an artist creating the game and the game is simply for you, yeah, go your own way, do whatever you want. But if your intent is to sell, you have to have a very different kind of entry point for that, and think about how you're creating your content in a very different way, because you might find one certain thing, you know, beautiful, sexy, interesting to you, but
Right.
the rest of the media and the market hasn't been exposed to that as much, and then it might not sell. So I think that's kind of like one of the main key points of this idea. And there are plenty of creators and companies that celebrate sexuality wonderful, and they
Right.
make characters that are strong and sexy and beautiful, and you know, it's wonderful to be able to see those games and to play those and have that connection with that character. But there are a lot of games who also just make it because, hey, maybe this is a way just to sell a game.
Just for the lols, let's say.
Yeah.
Can you expand on that, please?
So I
Dropping some bombs.
Yeah, can I like jump into my talking
Yeah,
points
go ahead.
here?
Yeah,
Okay.
Go for it.
So one of the things that I feel like I really like about video games is how you can kind of create your own persona, right? So you have the option to go into a game, and a lot of games let you have this like huge character creator at your fingertips. You can paint whatever hair color you want, eye color, skin color, height, weight, right? To an extent, sure, okay, not really. Because Black Desert Online has been heralded as the largest character creator available. You know, like
Yeah.
throughout any platform, this is the one that everybody's talking about. You can do everything, and to the minute little detail, you can like make toes bigger if you wanted to, or smaller. It's crazy how detailed you can get within this. But when you start looking at certain things, you know, you can't make a female totally flat chested. You can't make her like shorter or wider than a certain parameter. You can't um like you can change the hair color any which way you want. You can adjust the face, you can, you know, make her face bigger or smaller or however. But at the end of the day, anytime you change her into an outfit, she's going to do this like sexy jumpy pose that makes her boobs bounce.
Right.
Why? Why? And the whole time you're doing this creator, you know, she's in this like see-through lingerie because like why? And
It's
I
lewd.
get, but it's not meant to be lewd from their perspective. It's like, oh, this is the best way to look at this character, and I get that. But then, you know, at some point, real life physics would take over, and your clothes aren't going to fall that specific way, and her butt's going to be hanging out every time she moves, and those types of things are where I kind of hit this barrier of being able to sort of like appreciate that type of game. And that gets it very difficult for me to kind of want to watch people like spending time within that. I even downloaded the character creator because I was like, this is amazing. I want to try this. I want to see what I can do. And when I realized, oh, I can only do so much, that was like kind of a letdown. And it like was frustrating for me as a female who wants other females to feel comfortable and happy with their sexuality. It's just not their sexuality, their sexualization.
Yeah.
Feel comfortable and sexy enough in their own bodies, I guess is a better way to put it.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question real quick before I get the opinion from this one here. Wouldn't you like I it's complicated, right? You everything you say is valid, but let me take it to from a certain aspect, right? That is like at least as a game design as a product, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, for example, about the engine, right, that is built, or usually when you build like this, you know, when you have a character builder, I guess, you know, or you have an engine or something, you have certain limitations of how much you can do, how I guess few or less, right? Or is it few? How
How little, how much
how
versus how
little
little.
you
Yeah.
can do, right? And I'm guessing that I guess part of your point is that if they actually went above and beyond on adding this many amount of details, where are the details that actually matter, that are related to representation, right? Is
Yeah,
that part of it?
kind of. Or they went above and beyond to add all of these details to make a character very sexy. Where are the details to make her very human? And the characters in this are not elves. They're not, you know, yeah, they're casters or magicians or whatever, but they're not like, they don't have elvish ears unless you specifically do that. They're
Yeah.
created as humans that you can sort of modify from there. So to me, I'm like, well, I go into a game 9 times out of 10, I make my avatar look like me because I like to do that. That's something that I feel like, hey, I want to experience this game. And that was a huge issue for me because I just felt like, I don't want to see some, sorry guys, like double E boob
Oh,
chick bouncing up
no
and
offense
down
taken.
all day long.
No offense taken.
And I I want someone who is relatable.
I actually understand. It's interesting though, actually. Again, sorry, it's just a real quick comment, real quick.
Yeah.
Is that, for example, I'm playing the Division 2 now, and I actually made a woman character, right?
Mhm.
And when I play games in general, I actually make, and I don't want to get into yet if it's this related because I just have the option, right? I believe we got a raid. Thank you very much.
Oh,
Ooh,
snap.
Castor died. Thanks a lot for the raid. Appreciate it. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
So yeah, so I believe, like, for example, I do appreciate, like, in games when they actually offer me the option to create whoever I want or to be whoever I want. And I actually, interesting, I usually don't go to create myself, which I think is that I'm not trying to invalidate what you said, but for
No,
me,
no,
for
yeah.
example, having, for example, the option to be a woman or a guy, I'm like, oh, who I'm gonna go? Like, I think in Destiny, most of the characters also that I have made have been woman, or at least the female part. Like, don't make male too, or a robot, right, or something. But the things like I find it interesting, like in Bloodborne, for example, like you can do, or Dark Souls, you can like choose and modify, even to certain goofiness, like even or Skyrim or something like that, right? That it gets silly. But the thing is, like, I guess in contrast to that BDO doesn't actually let you get silly. Every limit is right sexy. You know what I mean? Every limit is perfect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Perfect.
Or
Yeah.
like unflawed, let's say. You know what I mean? Which I guess like that's interesting. Visco, what do you think about all this?
I think it's kind of gotten to a point where it's silly, where as female characters in a lot of games is their over-sexuality is their only identity, and you can see it when they design the character. Like, I don't know if any of you play World of Warcraft, but you have this big hunky dude with this plate armor, and then the female character in the same armor, but it's only covering her chest and her crotch, and that's it. It's like, that doesn't make any sense,
Right?
even if it looks good to men.
I really thought they changed that, no? Like recently?
I haven't played in over a year, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I haven't played since Legion, but I had like some character that wasn't human or something. Undead. I had Undead. Yeah. Anyways. Okay. Lee, what do you think?
So I guess related to like the oversexualization. That's a hard word, by the way.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. I think there was this one game that I had an issue within it because they heavily oversexualized both the male and female characters, and these characters don't really have like too much of a backstory. They're just kind of like a playable like avatar / like role you can play. The game in question is Dragon's Crown. I highly suggest looking at the art for this because like for the dudes it's just muscles upon muscles upon muscles, which is like this is literally impossible unless you're like some genetic abomination. And like for the women, it was just like some of the strangest proportions I've ever seen in my life. And it's like, I think it's kind of polarizing sometimes. It's like, just because of like how extreme it is and how it can be, it's like, I don't necessarily need to see like, I guess like the most either like idealistic version of like how someone should look, or I don't really necessarily feel the need to see like the most, I guess like quote unquote human representation of someone. But it's like, sometimes it's just too much. And I guess related to like the idea of like whether it's like the like do games need to worry or respect like the idea of sexuality? I think they do to some degree. I think my biggest problem with that comes from the Dead or Alive series, which is pretty relevant. And I only specifically have this issue with certain characters because the game is pretty much known to sexualize every single one of its female characters, right? Like that's no surprise. Like Dead or Alive is basically like the booby fighting game, right? But my issue comes when they're trying to sexualize characters that are explicitly under the age limit, because there are several characters within that game that did not explicitly have an age mentioned in some of the earlier Dead or Alives because they were like underaged, and yet this company is still like sexualizing these characters. Like I have a problem when that happens because that's unethical and not cool, in my opinion. So,
what do you think, Visco?
I agree with them. Over-sexualization, can't even say that word. Over-sexualization. When I think about it, I immediately think of Mad Moxie from Borderlands, where that's like all she is. And then they eventually try to make her a deeper character, but that I think it's like the third game at that point, like just being like over-sexualized is all you know her by, and it's kind of already ruined. You can't go back. I don't know how many of you know Mad Moxie.
No, yeah. When you say the third is the sequel, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just to clarify, do you guys think that that affects in a way the way you connect with characters, like the unrealistic aspect of it, or the I don't know how to refer to it, like, because the thing is like as a creator or as an artist, right? Because we're all artists here. Like for me, perfection is a concept that is not conventional, I guess. You know what I mean? There's anything can be perfect, or there's beauty or in imperfection, right? And something like that. I don't want to get too deep into art, but you know what I mean? But the thing is like do you guys think that, there is, I guess everyone has an ideal, right? Or everyone either, have will have a good time, like hard time, or or an easier time connecting. Do you think these things matter in general? Like, if, like, does it matter to you? Is it part of that? I guess,
You
I
know,
have an answer for that. Okay.
oh no, you
You
go
do?
ahead, please go.
Yeah, go for it.
I didn't realize sexualization of women in games is why I had a hard time connecting to female characters until I played Horizon Zero Dawn, and I really connected to Aloy. I thought that was such a great game, and it's because they didn't focus on the sexy clothing or her sexual orientation. I don't think there was even romance in the game. She was just a really cool, deep character that I really, really enjoyed. And I'm like, well, why can't they do more games like this? I'll play any female character that is built and designed like this.
Right. Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
No, okay, yeah, go ahead. You guys were gonna say something too. Melissa, go first.
I just feel like there's this like line, right? So when a game falls on the very right side of fantasy, then it doesn't affect how I can identify or connect with the game, because it's so fantastical that it doesn't matter.
Can you give an example of that? Of what game or...
Final Fantasy. I'm going to talk about Xenoblade in a few minutes, but Xenoblade Chronicles 2, like those types of games that are very obviously fantasy games.
Right.
You wouldn't find any of that within real life. But then when you look at games that are meant to be a little closer to real life, or at least have their avatars look like real beings, that's when I have like a harder time with it. And that's when I find myself having a harder time connecting with the person that I'm trying to be or become within the game. And I think like a good example of that too, and an example of growth maybe within the company, are the Lara Croft games and the whole Tomb Raider series, because old school, original PlayStation Lara Croft wore skimpier clothing and was more of like as sexy as you could get within those graphic constraints, of course, sexy character. But now you look at more of the newer Lara Croft games, and it's toned down a whole lot. She's badass. She looks amazing. She's just like comfortable within her skin, and she constantly is preaching that kind of message within the game context. So I think that becomes more relatable to me, because it's not as purposefully done, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Let's see. Lee, what do you think? You want to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I relating to like a female character's like I guess like sexual or over sexualization, or like their physical appearance. I don't really have too much of a problem relating with how they're portrayed visually, unless it comes to the point where it has a sort of like narrative dissonance with like who they are as a person. And my prime example of that is Ivy from Soul Calibur. I have a huge problem with her visual design because it does not match her noble family heritage that is implied by her lore. And like I recognize that each of her costumes like slightly change gradually depending on like the story of the game, where like she goes through a sort of redemption arc in like the third Soul Calibur game, and it's kind of like broken in like the next game after. But like that doesn't necessarily mean that like her costume should be like to the extreme of basically being just basically stitched together for like her fourth rendition. Like I have a problem relating when it comes to that, when the story just doesn't add up with like their personality / what they look like.
Right. I think in contrast, I would say that I guess I want to make sure that the point of, for me usually, the point of lore, story, and character design are very, very important actually to justify anything that you make in character design, like or visual design of a character in general, right? Because it tells a story, and I think that's part also what for me, what's important or what I like about games when I get immersed in them and things like that, right? But I also want to say that in contrast, for example, like Widowmaker character, like her sensuality and sexuality, like it's part of who she is, and the story that everything that's happened to her, things that happen, and how they actually tell her story, right? Like for example, I don't see I don't see her being, over sexualized. And I know that they have gotten, Blizzard have gotten some flack because of this, but I don't think so, right? Like I don't see it's like, oh, like that's stupid, I'm like, oh, okay, it makes sense, or like,
Yeah.
even seeing, and the things I think that also applies. I don't want to be the I don't want to be a person, but I'm gonna be the person that also applies, at least you know, in the male side, right? Because there's also the shining armor knight, whatever, and you're like everything is perfect, and they're tall and blonde and blue eyes, and they're like the perfect like shoulder, and you're like, oh my god, this guy, like I don't, you know what I mean? Like that's not me. But the thing is, like at the end of the day, I guess also, I'm like whatever, the thing is like I'm whatever that because I don't care. The game doesn't make me care, right? And that what I do, I don't know if it's like what I'm doing is dismissing what it's trying to do, but I think that it's more that the designer of the game, the creator, had the responsibility to make to build that connection between the character that they are like telling the story with and the game, right? That they are doing. And the things like, to contrast that again is that, for example, what they did, for example, in which is that just came to mind. It's not even in my notes. Is when they did in the Last of Us, right? I connected both the same way. With what's his name? Is
Joel and Ellie.
and Ellie, right? With both the same way in different levels. I'm like, oh my god, you know what I mean? Like I get it. And they have all different motivations. There's like more two dimensionality, right, to the design, to the character, to the to what they're thinking and what they say and why they do things in general, right? And again, something like that, I bring up The Witcher a lot, and The Witcher is the same thing. You know what I mean? The Witcher, there is like a lot of like adult stories or adult, like I'll say, right? Like it's not porn, it's HBO. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, it's part of the
What an
story.
expression.
It's part of the story. Like it's Gerald. You know what I mean? They're now having intercourse. You know what I mean? Like I get it. But Gerald doesn't look like me. You know what I mean? But the thing is, the story they're telling me make me care, right? So I guess,
Yeah.
and I say all this, for example, right, when we land on BDO, and I actually have tried to, because I like grinding games, and I tried BDO several times to try to get into it. I always quit after a couple hours because I just don't care. You know what I mean? And I think that's part of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To your point of like, and someone had mentioned this in chat too, of the idea of like males not identifying. I completely respect and understand that, because it definitely is a thing across, all types of people and everyone who doesn't identify with like a certain kind of archetype, if you will.
Right.
But on that same case, if you wanted to play a tank or like a berserker in a game, right?
Yeah.
And you want to play a male berserker, that male berserker character is probably big, beefy, maybe like overweight and looking very strong, whatever. When you go to the female, she's still like, hourglass. Her
Right.
waist is still really small. She still has these like sculpted calves, and not, the same type of appearance is not carried over to the female avatar, is kind of where I think that becomes a little bit of a separation, because people still, and not just men, and not, I'm not like qualifying it as that, but people in general still want to see the female form as sexy. And when you do those types of things, make her very, muscular, and lose this like feminine form, it loses a lot of those aspects in terms of like a developer, a psychological mindset within the audience of games, so to speak, or the purchasers of games, because it's not even the audience, because we, the players, recognize this and we don't all appreciate it.
Right.
It's the people who are buying the games, I guess.
You think that's might be related to cultural differences?
I think so. I think that could definitely be a big part of it. I mean, we're looking at cultural differences. The United States has put forth this kind of like movement within the past, I don't know, 8 to 10 years or so, of body positive, right? So a lot of independent clothing companies are pushing this idea of body positive companies and just really making sure that you look good in what you're wearing and you feel comfortable and happy and confident in what you're wearing, no matter your body type. And I think that's like a huge thing that we're sort of missing within United States produced video games. But when you look at other countries, especially in Asia, they don't have those movements happening. And they don't really have that kind of forward growth in terms of body type. What was sexy 10 years ago, 20 years ago is still sexy to them. And especially like when you look at like within culture in Japan, the shirt I'm wearing would not be allowed because shoulders are sexualized in Japan. So even though this is not to me a sexy shirt, it's 80 degrees outside today. You know, this is like
Oof.
sexy here, not sexy here. It's sexy in Japan.
Right.
And I would be shunned by the Japanese people if I were to walk around in public like this.
It's like tattoos. There.
Yeah. It's the same type. There's like a stigma to it. So I think that culture has a huge thing to do with it as far as where the games are produced. And I think culture has a huge thing to do with it as far as the characters. But I know we're going to kind of like talk about that. So I don't want to sort of like jump the gun. Yeah.
No. Jump. Go ahead.
So like in terms of culture, if you're trying to represent a specific type of culture in a game, or you have a specific deity that you're going for, or a look or a feeling, you know, you can definitely understand where they're taking some of these points to make a character sexy. Like I reference Shiva in Final Fantasy IX as a summon, really, really sexy, you know, goddess that comes down. And Shiva in Hindu is a god that represents, I can never like lust and desire, and very connected to this like very phallic form that's used within a lot of Hindu art. So it kind of goes back and forth with this, okay, they wanted to make her sexy because she represents this sort of being that is reminiscent of that, if that makes sense. So to me, that like totally valid, like completely makes sense. I understand that. So that's where it's like culture does have a huge part to it, and I really appreciate when a game goes that extra mile to dig deeper into those layers and give us this visual representation where we automatically understand what's going on within that character.
Right. Lee, you want to expand on that?
Man, I don't even know where to start.
I guess also let me be more specific.
Okay.
Since we switch a little bit to, you know,
Yeah, sorry.
Western
No, it's
Eastern.
okay.
No, it's so good. Western Eastern like developer, right? I know you can make a point, for example, there are like certain Japanese games, for example, I can bring an example of Bravely Default. They try to over-sexualize like underage women, right? Or girls at this point, right? They're just, you know, 15 or something like that. But the thing you have then, in contrast, a game like Bayonetta, you know what I mean? That is like,
Right.
that there's like, or even Final Fantasy, which is like, I guess, you know, mostly Japanese, right? But Bayonetta, for example, is designed and created by a, you know, Japanese, you know, game designer, and there's like the take on it is very different, right? What would you say? Would you agree?
Well, yeah, I think the take is a lot different. So I'm gonna preface this by saying Bayonetta, that series, Bayonetta 2 is probably like my favorite action game of all time. I absolutely love the character of Bayonetta. I think she is probably, at least in my opinion, one of the better examples of females in gaming, because I think that her character is it's really cool because she's super confident in her sexuality, right? Like, and it goes down to like every single line. She's like blowing kisses to her enemies. She does like dances that involve like, you know, her wicked weave to do some of the most like badass attacks I've ever seen in gaming. Just like everything and then some, and she's like proud of it too, and like that shows in both like her lore, her character, her speech, and I think she's one of the better examples of like sexualization of characters in of women in gaming, because like they take the concept, they roll with it as a game mechanic, they roll with it lore wise, and I think it works because it leads to like, you know, a fun experience as a game, and it's cool to kind of like see her grow, like, you know, from like her humble origins of like being raised by I think it was like Angel Culture or something like that. I can't remember. It's been a while, but yeah.
Bisco, would you agree that there is like this contrast between Western and Eastern developers?
Oh yeah, I mean, you play any Korean game, and you're gonna have these tiny female characters wielding this axe like twice their size and wearing a metallic bikini. At least that's what I've seen.
Right. Well,
And
can you think of an example? Do you remember any character like that is like designed by Japanese developer that you will say, "Oh, that's dope." Like I get it. It's dope.
I would say Bayonetta for the same reasons that Lee did,
Yeah.
because she knows who she is, and I don't know. I think I don't know how to explain it, like tastefully done with her.
Right.
It's over the top, but it's not ridiculous. Well, it is ridiculous, but I don't know. It's not like
It's over the top, but like it serves its purpose.
It's
It's-
it's a spectacle
artsy.
action-wise, right?
Right.
I
It
guess.
it comes from a place of strength, and she
Yeah.
owns that.
Exactly.
Right. Which is, I think, what brings the good point is that the problem or the issue or the concern, right, is not that women are not like that, or the women that the only way to be sexy is being super skinny or like having your boobs out or whatever. Like there's like many ways, right? And the things, I guess there's a limitation, right? There is like a limited or narrow or dim view of how these things are realistically, I guess, too. You know what I mean? Okay. Okay. I wanna then ask about. I wanna turn the turntables a little bit. What do you think about then something like Dream Daddy, dating simulators that are I want to bring Dream Daddy in specific because Dream Daddy is actually created and designed to make a critique of how silly, to put a word, dating simulators are, right? Because most dating simulators are right from the eastern side of the world, right? So what Dream Daddy is doing, right, is making that critique and also making a good game of dating, being a dad and dating a dad. I remember we were joking the other day, we were trying to find a game for Adrillian to play. Adrillian is a woman, and I told him, Adrillian, you should play Dream Daddy. Dream Daddy is an amazing game, right? Amazing story, right? A bunch of hot dads. But the thing is, like, I remember her response is that I don't want to be a dad and date dads. You know what I mean? I think that also the thing is, even though you can go as silly as you can to make a critique or to make a commentary, right? You can still, alienate certain people. Like even when you're trying to do the opposite. You know what I mean? Which is why the example that I wanted.
I also like Dream Daddy as an example because it not only becomes this kind of like reflection on dating sims, but it does a really good job making these like sexy male characters look desirable and get
I wanna be a
into
dad.
like, yeah, they get into these weird situations that you're like, what? And it's the whole time it's funny, it's entertaining, and it has some really good like messages and storylines to it. And I think that it's probably like the number one game I can think of in the past, I don't know how many years, that has not only made a joke about the dating sim, but also made a joke about the over-sexualization of women characters,
Right.
and answered it really well.
Right.
So that was a great example to me.
I think the fact that because it's made with purpose actually goes above and beyond in many ways, right? And I think that also that relates and connects with many other games that actually being made with purpose, regardless of the characters that you have or the design that you have of them. Being made with purpose means that you have, a good narrative, you represent the lore properly, you make the people connect and understand. You can present, confrontations or, conflict, right? Because usually games and life is about conflict, right? And how do you resolve them? You know what I mean? And it can be, maybe even in a puzzle or conversation that you have or an RPG or things like that, right? But the thing is, like, again, so something completely different, right, to that, it will be Dead or Alive, right? For me, Dead or Alive is a game without purpose. You know what I mean? And that's why the thing is like, right? I don't care, right? Again, like I'm bringing the point that I brought before. It doesn't make me care because the only thing wants to do is just to have a bunch of girls, right? Play in volleyball in the beach or something like that, or like I mean, $90 DLC. Let's not talk about that, but you know what I mean. What do you think, Lee? It's a big yikes, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know.
By your face.
I played a few of the Dead or Alive games.
No. When I was a kid, I rented a couple. You know what I mean? Like I needed
Yeah.
to play some games, right? So that's what I know about it, right? Well,
Yeah, like, man, I think Dead or Alive Extreme is probably like, oh man, that game's awful. Like the entire game is just like an exploitation of like the female body, and like it doesn't even try to hide it either, because like half the mini games just revolve around them either like butt bumping each other when they're like standing on like some sort of like inner tube thing, or
yikes.
just there's literally a mode in there where you can just like take like candid photos of them of the girls, and it's like, what is
Oh,
this?
right.
Like,
Yeah, I remember.
it's so strange. Like, I don't know. I think it's like such an extreme example of like, it doesn't seem like it's empowering the women that are in that game. It's just like you're just some like casual onlooker who just has like a weird pervy attitude in that. And
Right.
it's like, I don't.
You're just hanging out
I
in
don't
the
like
beach and
this.
looking where they're playing. You know what I mean? It's like, hey,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It feels like
Basically.
that, I guess, right? Oh god. God damn it, this fucking game.
I never played any of them.
Yeah, you're not missing anything.
The fighting games are fun.
Yeah.
I think they're really solid mechanically. I think lore wise they're kind of whack, but I mean, I don't know.
Snip, I'm gonna actually bring a point later a little bit about that, which is actually very glad that you brought it up. I wanna first talk about, as Pisco here. I know that you mentioned to me before about having a gender neutral stance. What are your thoughts about?
It's just when the story has nothing to do with gender, and I think one of my points is Mass Effect. I love how you can make either gender and it doesn't change the story, but and it doesn't change the character at all. So like, I love playing Femshep, especially the voice. She's just like a very strong female leader, and her gender doesn't come into question. It's just like whoever you want her to be or him to be, you can connect to them however you want. You can make their choices no matter what gender they are, except for the romance, which I think they should change that too, because why can't I romance a robot? Is the future.
What can you though?
But I think if it's done right, it doesn't matter. It's just up to you about what gender you want to play, and I think that should be more common with modern games. It's up to you.
You think so? Would you guys agree that most games, or let's say 95% of the games, you'll have the option to have a character creator or select, gender that you want, and make whatever you want before you play?
Depends on the game. I mean, like, I think there's some scenarios where you don't really need that. Like, I know, like Castlevania Order of Ecclesia was built around, with like Shinoa, and she's like, the primary protagonist of the game. Like, it was built, all with her in mind, like straight down to her character design, by having like, like a back tattoo that like, lets her absorb different abilities from her enemies. And like, I don't think you would always necessarily need the option to be able to pick which, gender you're playing. Also, as another note, regarding the whole gender neutral thing, I think it's neat because I know Undertale is kind of an interesting example of that, as I don't think the gender of your character is explicitly defined within that game. So it's kind of implied that the character you're playing could either be, male or female, which I thought was a pretty neat approach because of like the, I guess like the ambiguity of it. So.
Right. What do you think, Melissa? Do you think most games should bring a creator and let you choose and create?
I think it also depends on the game and the storyline. Like, I was just looking up, I couldn't remember what the name of the game was, but if you guys remember the game Limbo, it was released in 2010 on Xbox, and now it has like a re-release recently, and you don't know your gender in that, and it's very kind of black and white thematics all throughout, and it doesn't matter what your gender is. And like those types of games, I don't think it matters at all, and I think it's fine. Another really, like, to me, a good example is Pokemon. I mean, I'm sure we've all played Pokemon at one point or another in our lives. And right away, whoever the Pokemon professor is like, are you a boy or a girl? And it's like, all right, you get to pick which one you are because Nintendo wants you to identify with the character. but
Right.
it doesn't really matter because it doesn't change the storyline in any way, shape, or form, whether you're a boy or a girl. It's still, you become the Pokemon champion when you beat the game. Like, girls can do that too, boys can do that too. Like, I don't think that there's any sort of specific reason to have that. So those mechanics I really appreciate. And like you mentioned, Undertale, I think, is a game that personally I would never play, but I really also appreciate that it has that mechanic in it as well.
Right. Can you guys imagine a world where Samus is a man?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not? Like in
Because-
Metroid, like
Because
sorry, you go.
personally, I don't. Samus for me is, is a woman. You know what I mean? And that's how it was designed initially, and that's how, it took off, and that's how the adventures I have played of her. Like, it's like saying, just for the laws, let's make Soma Cruz from Castlevania a woman, right? Instead of a man, right? Because
There's already a character that does that.
What?
There's never mind. I'll tell you after.
But
show you
the thing is, like,
design-wise.
my the point I'm trying to make is that, I guess, as the creators, right, who, like Nintendo in this case, like, created Samus as, this heroine and, bounty hunter, whatever, that I want to become Samus when I play her games. I don't want Samus to be a man or have, for me, the option to choose if I want to be a man or a woman, because Samus is the woman. It's like, oh, she's the protagonist. I need to play this as her. So I put that example because I guess not every game needs to give you the option to be either or one or the other, right? I think games have as a medium, are open to either the creator to choose whatever story they want to tell in whatever format they want, right? And I guess that puts me in the spot of, if they want to over-sexualize it, then it might be a game that is not for me, right? And then brings me to the next question, right? Do you guys think that these over-sexualized characters are actually catering to a specific demographics or audiences that are not us, right? That now that we are older and we know more, we know better, right? Do you think then it shouldn't matter, because games as a medium are actually mostly maybe should be designed for everyone and should have this level of accessibility or how do you call it, or of entrance, or like, how do you say that, like
Point of entry.
point of entry or something like that, like, because at the end of the day, every year we get new players, either kids of adults, either women or men, right? And then they're gonna actually start either maybe with retro games, with Nintendo games, with computer games, console. It doesn't matter. They're gonna start with some game, and these games actually will provide the bedrock. You provide the foundation of what do they think and how do they consume games in general, right? And I guess we'll bring the question of even though it's catering to certain demographics or audiences, the creators still needs to care about this, because there's always new people playing, and there's always new people learning and wanting more or wanting to play games again. What do you think?
Hold on. Can we go back to the Samus thing real quick? Because that was kind of an interesting point you brought up. So
Okay.
you said you couldn't possibly see the idea of Samus being a man.
I wouldn't play, like, if, for example, let's say Metroid Prime 4 comes out, and they say, actually, now you can play as Samus. Samus can be a woman, like the Samus that you all know, you imagine saying, all know and love, but you also can play as a male version of Samus. I will be like, oh, whatever. Like, if you give me the option, right? I'm gonna be like, well, I want to play this game. I don't care about the male, because for me, Samus is a woman, right?
Okay. I see. Regarding Samus specifically, I don't feel like her gender was ever like really like such a big point for like the Metroid games, and I say that because like
actually it is, right? From the first game, because when she dies and they reveal that was like everyone thought. The thing is like the way I consumed it, right, when I played the first Metroid, is that Nintendo actually, I guess where you're coming from. Oops, I dropped something. I guess where you're coming from is that Nintendo actually never promoted the first Metroid as Samus being a woman until you actually buy the game and you realize she is. and that's the selling point. It's like, holy shit, I never thought about this. She's actually a woman, but the armor breaks and she, is in her underwear, right? Let's say, right? Or the thing is like, again, and then when Smash, what it was, Smash 3 or something, and they break between Zero's suit or when Zero's mission happened, right? Oh no, Samus without armor, and then she's more sexualized, right? Because also, at the end of the day, Japanese developer, right? In general, like, or like, it's also a selling point too, that, oh yeah, and now she doesn't need her armor to be strong or whatever, right? You know what I mean? But the thing is, like, it is part of who she is, being a woman and being successful and being a bounty hunter and not caring what Adam had to say or whatever, or like being in conflict and more two-dimensional. So, go ahead.
I just really don't think like the sexuality part of it is like super relevant to her character, because like, even from like, I'm thinking from like a physical like design for the character in addition to like mechanics designed. 99% of the game we see her in her suit, right? And to me it's like, I thought Samus was a robot at first, because like it gave me the impression that like it's more about like what this person is capable of rather than like what and what they're doing rather than like their kind of background. Because Samus's background is that she's like a Chozo warrior that was raised by like this ancient bird race after having her planet pretty much destroyed by space pirates, right? And she was even infused with like Chozo like DNA and all that, and like genetically modified. And like it seems to me like she's more of like, she's like a weird hybrid of like the Chozo, and in like the later games, like she quite literally like dies and becomes like a walking Metroid, right? Like I don't know. I think Samus in particular is just a strange case because of like because of like all the like the weird strange genetic like modification that happens to her throughout like the course of the game. It's like, I recognize her gender and all that, but like, and I recognize that like Samus is still extremely capable even without like the suit, but it just, I don't know. But that doesn't take away from like her empowerment, right? Because she was capable of doing that the whole time.
Right. I don't think she actually is a badly designed either or anything.
No, I love her. She's one of my favorites.
Right. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is that I do care that she's a woman. I am happy that I can play as her. Yeah. Right. That I'm not giving the option of choosing between a man and a woman. That I actually they're telling me you are this dope ass woman, right? That you're gonna go in the spaceship and kill shit. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, let's stop. Okay, I'll do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, in contrast, right? If a game comes and be like, oh yeah, because the things, I'm not taking away that Samus can be or is sexy or it can be sexualized or not, or even over sexualized, right? In any way. But the thing is, like, even if they do that, they made me already care about her, right? But the thing is, like, if they do that with some other character that is over sexualized, I don't care about them. I'm like, okay, I don't care what you about this character. If you give it to me in this context or not, if you give me the option to switch, I guess, like, it's so malleable, I guess, because with example of Mass Effect, Shepard is actually both man and woman at the same time, because you were able always to do it, right? Since Mass Effect 1. Right.
I wanted to mention, I like to compare like Samus and specifically Link, like gender wise, because I think I've heard in like some outlets of like the Zelda community that like a lot of people kind of really wish that like there was an option to play as like a female Link, which we did get in Hyrule Warriors. Linkle, weird name, but and it's weird because like for those two characters, I don't know, they felt like more of just like your avatar, like a representation of like what the player is able to do, like. And don't get me wrong, like I like Samus's backstory, and like there are some cool moments. I think it's just the fact that she's like silent for like 90% of the game. Like in Fusion, she has like what, 3 or 4 lines? Like she has like a couple of instances where she's like recollecting her thoughts, like on the elevator. She has like 2 moments where she talks to Adam, and as far as that, I don't even know if she gets like voice acting in Metroid Prime 3, but
does not.
Yeah, it's mainly just
Link,
like lore for that
Link
character.
Doesn't either.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of like to hinge that like those characters are more like neutral, and like they just seem to function as more of an avatar. You know what I mean? because
Yeah,
of like
yeah.
how,
Actually, that's a good point. Yeah. Huh.
yeah, and I only say that because of like I guess the impersonalness of like having to rely upon like background information to understand like who they are as a person, like gender wise and like everything else. So
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
food for
What do you guys
thought.
think, Melissa?
I think Link is a really good example actually because I'm still playing through Breath of the Wild. I haven't beaten it yet. And I like constantly as you're sort of building this backstory, everyone refers to Link as the hero, right? So I don't remember if there's any one point where they say the male hero or they just keep saying the hero.
It's
So
always
yeah,
The hero of time. Yeah.
always
always
the
the
hero of time, right?
Yeah.
So they've never kind of qualified or that he is actually a he, which I think brings to your point, Lee, that it definitely can be more of an avatar for you, and anyone can feel like they are the hero that the story is talking about. That this
I
is
never thought
sort
about
of
it that
your,
way, actually.
yeah, like this is the physical personification of the hero of time, the hero that the world needs. And why can't that be me? Why can't that be you? Whoever is playing it all.
Yeah,
And I
think
really,
like,
really
Link
like that.
and Samus- Yeah, like Link and Samus are just great for that. I think because
Yeah.
of like, you know, the sort of like ambiguity, it helps to kind of like it makes it easier to put yourself in their shoes because it's like, oh, well, that's me. I'm the hero of time. I'm the space bounty hunter. You know?
Mm-hmm.
You know
And
what's
I think,
interesting? Yeah. Go ahead.
oh, go ahead. Like, it's okay. You can go.
No, that. For example, if I was thinking about Odyssey and, you know, I don't know, like Zelda or like in Mario games, you don't choose to name Mario something else with your file, but with
Mm-mm.
Link you can. But with
Yeah.
Samus you can't either.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's interesting.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. I think with Samus, I disagree a little more simply because of when we got Zero Suit Samus and how kind of like you guys mentioned, she became very sexualized. And I think especially with the attention that she gets within Smash and the Smash community, it becomes this like bigger kind of personality within gaming. But when you take that part of it away, I completely agree. It's an avatar for you and anyone can sort of become that. You know, it's kind of like, dare I mention Castle Crashers as this game where, you know, if you guys have ever played it, you play male icons, male characters that are rescuing princesses, and it's sort of this like campy play on go rescue princess in a castle thing. And at the very end of it, you fight with your friends of who gets to kiss the princess that you've rescued. And it's kind of like, well, there's no why can't the princesses be rescuing these guys? You know, I think that sort of is the opposite of what you guys are talking about because they are sort of they become kind of non-binary a little, if that makes sense. And not in a specific way, just in a personification.
Right.
Yeah.
I actually I remember you mentioning Xenoblade Chronicles 2 before. What was your point about that?
Oh boy, that game.
First, let me say I love Xenoblade. I have like 300 hours in it. I've played through the whole thing once, and then you get an option to restart, and I've restarted. And I'm about 75% of the way through my second playthrough, and then I got absorbed in Breath of the Wild, so it's taken a little bit of a backseat. But when it first came out and I saw the Nintendo Direct, I was like, man, this game looks so fun. And then you like zoom into Pyra, and it's like she can just topple over. Like there's literally no reason she should be able to stand up.
Right.
No. And then they started releasing like the images of the blades and everything, and I was just like, what's going on here right now? Because 80% of the blades that you're sort of collecting throughout the game are very over-sexualized female characters, even to the point where some of them are like, there's one that's literally wearing like a bikini and she's all muscular and she's like she's a fire persona, and then has these huge muscular arms as an extra extension of herself. You know, the ice one is a woman that has like the tiniest little feet that shouldn't it doesn't work. And you never really see her walking. She like floats above the ground. Okay, that makes sense. They even have a woman who's in a bathtub the whole time. Like it just it hits the beyond to me of just why. And sorry. And the last point I have to make of it is when you first look at the visualization of how these characters are, it hits the why. And then you start playing the game and you realize that each of these blades have this huge backstory and these like blade quests that you can go on. And it has a totally different meaning because now I want to know why they're like this. And I want to know, what is it about them? And you learn a lot about the characters, and some of it makes sense for their visual representation and some of it doesn't. But adding that backstory in is like a little redeeming for me. Just like, just a little.
Like they make you care, right? They make you care, and I think that's what important too. Right?
Yeah.
Can I ask something for clarification? So these are these party members or weapons that are also party members that are personified?
They are weapons, but they become personifications of the weapons. You have your main party, which are your characters that you can actually swap between who you're controlling, and then each one has a main blade that is an actual like crystal that they bring to life and walks beside you within the party. So as you're sort of walking in game, you have 10 characters out at a time, or I think the total max is 6 that you can see on screen at once, like 3 main party members and 1 blade for each. So you do see these figures throughout the entire game when they're like set as your main weapon, your main blade. And then when you're fighting, because it's not turn-based, they're constantly sort of like within the field fighting with you, and you see them sort of switch in and out. And the mechanics of it are something that a lot of people argue over because it takes a lot of getting used to understand the battle mechanics. But that process too is very interesting because they have these like special attacks, which sometimes those become over-sexualized too, just like you would expect from, a magical girl anime. That type of like feeling is there. So even though, the most powerful character in the game is still a female, you're like, she's like a void in her torso. She just has like boobs and like, an underwear line and like void legs down to feet and like void arms and then hands.
You mean
and
void like wispy or
like outer space, like black hole. She's like a dark, her power is like a dark power. So, she even has like a mask. Her face is like a mask. And when you like, I don't want to spoil anything, when you go into her backstory, it explains a bit of why she's like that. But it's still like a cool concept and it looks really cool. But at the same time, I'm like, why can't you just show her belly and like void out her boobs? Like, why do we have to have it like the other way around?
Is it weird that I'm more concerned about like the ethical implications that like we're kind of dehumanizing people in this game by like having them quite literally function as weapons?
Like objectifying them?
Yeah, we're quite literally objectifying like people by doing that.
Do you like RPGs, Lee?
Yeah, usually? I love RPGs.
You should totally play Xenoblade Chronicles 2 because it has that becomes like a major kind of story aspect within a lot of side quests, but they don't really touch on it as like a moral idea, but it's more on this idea of are these blades people? And they bring up this concept of memories because when a blade's owner dies, they go back to their crystal and they lose all their memories. So, and they explain that very early. That's not a spoiler. So it to me is like, I think you'd really appreciate how they kind of delve into that process and what it's like to find these continuous beings that are not quite human, but they do have personalities distinct to them.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to go over and ask around for closing thoughts. We're having over an hour of this stuff.
Sorry.
No. I think it's good. I'm glad we started with this too. But for the sake of moving on, right? Any closing thoughts, Visco? Go.
I think part of the problem is it's just overdone. I can't think of a game where they over-sexualize the male. but I can think of an anime, this Full Metal Alchemist, where they have a Captain Full Body, or he will just out of the blue flex so hard he flexes out of his clothes and he's wearing like a speedo and he's just covered in oil for some reason. I think it's hilarious because that doesn't happen a lot. But you got the
Johnny
flip side with the
Bravo.
women where they're just
Like them,
always
yeah.
yeah.
I can think of some examples of over-sexualizing men. One of them, Resident Evil 5, main character Chris Redfield. If you look at his design from Resident Evil 1 and look at him in Resident Evil 5, he hit like so many steroids, and the masculinity is overflowing to the point that you quite literally punch a boulder to save your partner in that game. Like the other example of like, I guess like sexualization of like a male character would probably be Vega from Street Fighter. He's similar to Bayonetta because he like revels.
Oh, I
in his
love
beauty.
Vega actually.
I love it.
He's
so
my
cool,
main
right?
actually.
Oh really? Nice. Yeah. Definitely my favorite Spaniard in gaming. He's super cool.
I can do his what do you call it? His scream?
His dive kick scream. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can, but not gonna do it now. Okay, maybe later. I haven't had a drink yet.
I think
Okay,
he's a good example for
I
the
don't.
male
I
equivalent
to be
of
honest,
Bayonetta.
actually, I don't think he's over sexualized, but
Not
we are
I
over-
think he's
we-
like in the right manner.
yeah. Well, yeah, I think it's dope actually because he's my main. You know what I mean? But okay, Melissa, any closing thoughts?
The only kind of closing thought that I have that was one of my points that I didn't bring up, and I want to close it with this, is when we have a game like Fortnite, which is probably the #1 most played game right now, maybe not as much now, maybe like 6 months ago, definitely. And they have 2 different modes, right? So they have their Save the World and they have Battle Royale. In Save the World, they have female skins that are not as sexy as their Battle Royale skins, yet they refuse to sort of bring them over. So I think that this kind of reinforces the concept that maybe within Western culture, we just aren't ready to fully embrace the idea of every body type is sexy. And as much as we as a culture are changing within our other media, maybe gaming hasn't gotten there. And I hope it does one day, because it would be great to be able to play as that other skin from Save the World in Battle Royale. And it would be really cool to be able to do that. They have an argument for it, and they say that it would change the hitbox because she's a wider character, so therefore the hitbox would be different. But the counter argument is it can just be an aesthetic. It doesn't have to change the hitbox. So, I think that it's just laziness from the side of the developers. And I hope that things change.
Yeah. I think, yes.
I was going to say, before we end the topic, there was one thing I wanted to ask everyone, like, who's our favorite and least favorite female character in gaming?
Oh, that's cool.
You can also, like, say your point, too. I don't want to interrupt that.
Actually, yeah, let me say my point real quick, and then I can say my answer, right? I think that, I agree there's a lot to be done, but I think a lot has been done. I think that you can actually definitely see growth, at least on the Western side, about how games are actually changed since like 2012 or 2013, like the new generation, latest. Obviously there's a lot more to be done, but the thing is, like, again, I'm on both sides, right? I understand the creator side to let them do whatever they want, and the cultural side too of being more accepting certain parts or not. But I do also understand when it's stupid and when it's like, again, my point is, make me care, and I'll be more forgiving. You know what I mean? Like when you want to do something crazy, right? Okay, so most favorite and least favorite. So I'm gonna say something, right? You guys mentioned Lara Croft before. The thing is, like, Lara Croft, actually, I dislike Lara Croft because of the old games. Lara Croft basically was ruined because of her over-sexualization in her beginnings. And that doesn't even inspire me to play new games because I just dislike the character. I don't care about the character. You know what I mean?
She's completely different in the reboot.
Right. Like, and I'm aware she's different, but that's why I'm using the word ruined, because I'm like, this is ruined for me. You know what I mean? Like, I even own the PS4, the first one that they, of the new reboot, and I never played it. Like, I played like 30 minutes. I'm like, oh, I don't know. You know what I mean? But I would say best female or female character, right? It would be female. I love Madeline from Celeste, which is actually one of the most recent that I have played.
Madeline is awesome.
Oh yeah. so dope. Actually, that's just a great game too. So, yeah, I guess that's my answer.
What about least favorite? Or did you? Or I'm sorry, you already said Lara Croft for least
Lara
favorite.
Croft.
I'm tired. It was a long day. So,
Okay, Lee, what? No, let's go with this question.
Favorite female character, that's easy. That's Aloy in Horizon Zero Dawn. I love that character. One of my favorite characters of all time. And worst character would be Jack from Mass Effect, because they just made her way too sexually aggressive. It was just so annoying all the time. I'm like, who talks like that? Like every time you see her, she's like, hey, want to bang? And you're like, no, I just want to talk about your life and what happened.
Okay, Melissa.
I'm probably gonna get a lot of flack for this because I love Nintendo games. My least favorite is Princess Peach.
oh, you don't like Peach?
I like her, like she's cute. Aw, Peach, yay, save the princess, but you're always saving the princess.
Right.
She got her own game, Super Princess Peach.
Yeah, and I
Really?
played it and I loved it.
She
But
did.
like,
I didn't
She
know.
did,
that.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
on the DS. It's a rare game, by the way.
yeah,
Oh.
it's a rare game.
I think so. I remember it like retailing for a lot. I could be wrong.
I love that. I love that game. But she's had one game, and even still, every single time there is a major Mario title, you're saving Peach. That's like a totally different, like nothing to do with sexualization, that I just feel like she
Right.
doesn't have enough spunk for me. I want to see her just like bite Bowser's tail and fight back and run away. Like I don't know. I just
She serves a mean ace in Mario Tennis. You got to give her credit for that.
and she is like easily one of like a top tier character with an ultimate. People can body with Peach.
Even in Melee,
So,
too.
Yeah, in Melee, even in
Yeah.
Smash 4, she's not so terrible, But like
Broken.
with every single main story game, you're saving Princess Peach, and I just yeah,
Did you-
static character that
Will you say the same, similar? You know what? I'm not. I was gonna mention the Zelda thing, but we want to get into discussion again. But I'm gonna let you go.
my favorite
Yeah.
is definitely Bayonetta, because I love, everything that Lee mentioned. She owns her sexuality. She's a very strong female character that I think I don't think children should be playing this game, but a lot of young teenagers can look up to when they do play this game, because she's not a sexual character who's out there like screwing every guy she sees. She's just strong and relatable, and really someone who's looking for their happily ever after, and working through everything that she has going on within her past. And I think that it makes her really, really cool.
Awesome. Lee, what's yours?
Okay, so at the risk of sounding redundant, I won't say Bayonetta, although she is really up there. My favorite female character is Sakuya Izuyoi from the Toho universe, specifically her Tohovania 2 reincarnation, because the way they portray her in that game is super cool, because she's like kind of pegged as like this like strong, independent like character. I mean, she's like a maid to like a different character within the series, but gameplay wise, I think she's super cool. I like that she's just very calm and collected. And
Is this
she's
the one that I play, the time stopping one, or another?
Same character, but she looks different in the other version I'm thinking of. But yeah, she can stop time. She can throw knives. She's like Dio Brando mixed with Soma Cruz. Like, what's not to love,
Right.
So
Least favorite?
least favorite. This is a tie between two characters. There's one character in Danganronpa that I really don't like. I think her name is like Miyu Iruma or something like that. She's the definition of like the worst over-sexualized character in gaming. If you guys ever played Danganronpa 3, like you'll know what I mean. The actual character I want to discuss. I hate Diva from Overwatch. I can't stand that character.
Can you tell me more?
Sure. One, I don't like her personality at all. Every single one of her like quotes, emotes is like
For
very
the record,
obnoxious.
Diva is supposed to be like a 17-year-old or something, right?
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I don't like her representation of females in gaming. I personally think it's like disrespectful to ladies. I'm a dude. I'm just kind of saying that because I don't think like her personality is indicative of like what we should kind of have as like kind of like I don't know. I don't like what she reflects of her values. I also don't like that in her lore that she streams her combat operations to her audience live. I think it's unethical to stream that fucking
killing other
lore
people
for entertainment. Yeah, like that's insanity. I hate her because of like that too.
I
It's
mean,
like,
they live in a world that we don't understand, right? I'm just kidding.
the super future, but
The
still,
super
I don't like that character for that reason.
Interesting, actually. Guys in chat, like, what's your favorite and least favorite? So,
Yeah, let us know.
let's hear it. Okay, so let's move to the next spicy topic. Wow, 1 hour and a half. I can't believe this, guys. I hope
This
you
is
guys
good.
have time.
No, it's okay.
I hope you guys have time. Okay. How you guys doing? Time good? How you guys feeling? Drink some
Yeah, we're
water,
good.
okay? Okay.
Mm.
Second topic.
That was spit take.
Brought to you by the one and only Just Belmont here. Morality in video games. Lee, I'm gonna give you the floor. Say your opening statement and tell us more.
Okay, so I've really been wanting to talk about this subject for a while. And I think that there's a lot of games that get morality wrong by specifically telling the player they're either good or evil. And to me, that I think explicitly having morality systems designed around this can be considered both bad game design and inauthentic to how morality works in real life. And I think it can also hamper game mechanics as well by kind of forcing this on the player.
Yeah.
So one of the examples I have is the first Mass Effect game. And my problem with this game is that you're way too incentivized to pick an alignment and stick with it because of the various perks that you get for kind of like going down that path. I believe if you go like completely evil, you get like an attack boost, but if you go like completely good, you get like an HP boost in addition to getting specific dialogue options. And my problem with that is that it doesn't allow for genuine choice because it's like, oh, well, if I just keep going down the good route, I'm going to keep getting more benefits, so I could just be like goody two shoes and not pick like choices that are related to like what I would actually pick. Because if I do pick what I actually pick, I'm going to be punished for that in the event that I decide to choose what the game considers evil or renegade. And I get it. It works for the sake of multiple playthroughs, but for the sake of like having a quote unquote morality system, it's a problem when you're forced to like only. Not forced, but like you're highly incentivized to like only go down one of those routes, you know?
Okay.
Because there's no benefit to neutrality.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Do you think that, would you say that if they had actually disconnected the fact that, the tech tree from morality, will have been a better game? Like
the benefits you get from the morality?
Yes. That you can actually have, for example, sphere grid, and you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Right? And the morality is just affecting a narrative, right? And relationships and things like that, let's say.
I think that would be better. I just don't feel like it's fair to kind of like, I guess, force those things down your throat when you don't have an option to be like an impartial, like centrist, you know? Like that's my issue because you can't be in the middle in those games, which is like, I like having a balanced perspective because I don't necessarily agree with all the quote-unquote good choices, all the bad choices, but the fact that I can't be like in the middle and still like get a benefit is a problem. Like they're telling me to be either left or right, and I don't want to do that.
Let me ask you something. Actually, another question. Do you think that if the game will be like, well, would you agree that the thing is like, the selling point of a game like that, right, is offering that mechanic as, this is the unique, part of the unique things that, right? Because the things that there are many RPGs and many action games, etc., right? And every game has a job of selling you the mechanics, the things that you can do in it, right? And the certain limitations or the certain, gameplay stuff that you can do, etc. Like at the end of the day, you want to enjoy it. You say, okay, I want to try that. That's dope. I want to be that person, etc. Part of the mechanic of being evil or being good is part of what the selling point of the game, right? So why would you think the game is for you then if you don't like that?
Well, I don't. Well, first of all, I don't think the game is for me. I'm not really into the Mass Effect series.
Interesting.
I'm speaking as
Okay.
someone. I'm going to flat out say I have not played these games. I am simply reflecting on like what I have seen.
Okay.
I disagree with how they handle morality because of like the lack of offering a middle of the road suggestion or middle of the road option and benefits for that is my issue.
I see. What do you guys think? Visco, what do you think?
I can kind of feel the pain with it. I mean, I love Mass Effect series, but I'm not going to spoil it. But there is someone that dies unless your character is as good as you can be.
No, spoil it.
It's
Well,
yeah,
we're doing live.
It's Tali. And the Mass Effect 3, if you don't have a save file from a previous game that's Paragon, and if you don't go full Paragon, you cannot convince her to work together with the Geth, and then she will just jump off a cliff and died.
What the hell?
Turned off my game immediately when that happened because I love Tali. And I was just so angry, and I went back and played through all of them just so I could keep her alive in my ending.
Wow, that sucks.
I don't know. It can be good and bad. I don't like it when the morality choices don't line up with your sense of morality, because sometimes they'll be like, hey, choosing the greater good is evil, or choosing the smaller good is evil. You know, it's all like the perspective of the developer, not the person that's playing, and that's what can frustrate me about morality systems.
Okay. Melissa, what do you think?
I think that's like a good point, and my similar example is like the Walking Dead series, where you have sort of multiple options, and whenever you run into a character, you get like this pop-up that says, your choice will affect things, or so and so will remember this, which I really like, because I think that that's a little more of a expanded system, but it comes back to that idea of what Vesco talked about, where if you make a wrong choice, like on chapter 1, chapter 7, that character might die because of your choice in chapter 1, and then because all the games sort of link together with your save data from previous ones, your ending for the first game could be completely different because of that first choice you made. And I think that that's like an interesting concept that more developers can kind of play with going forward, maybe, of the idea of, well, why, choose your own adventure is the closest way that I can sort of think about to describe it, of creating this moral compass for you within how you want to play out the character. And there are some people who are going to play simply because they're going to reset their game when so-and-so dies in chapter 5. Yeah. Or there are other people who are going to be like, well, that's okay. This is how I played it. I'm going to keep going. Maybe they'll replay at another point, or maybe they'll just be okay with that's how the story was. So I think that it would be nice to have like more options within games, but from that game, I think people are trying.
Right. I think my initial take will be that there's obviously limitations on technology too, on trying to make something actually really like super complex or realistically complex on decision making and morality, I guess, in general. Like obviously good and evil is not black and white in real life, or choice even, right? Or conflict and etc. Like and usually like these games would have conflict and choice and things like that, or an RPG in general, right? They will bring us systems like this, which I actually rather never have, right? In my opinion. Or for example, I give you an example. For example, in Fallout 3, you rather have a karma system depending if you do good things or bad things, but that doesn't necessarily affect the perks that you get. You know what I mean? Or the story that they need to tell you, or things like that, right? But for example, in contrast to Second Son, like you need to go full evil or full good, But the thing is, like in Second Son, that made me play the game twice because I like the game. You know what I mean? Because the thing is, like, I know it can gain 1 dimension or 2 dimension, I guess is the word, right? That is just like, okay, I just do evil things because that's the character that I'm playing. You know what I mean? And basically in RPGs, when you actually make the choice, which I think like very very. I'm gonna take a hot take here. You know, like maybe 60% of people don't know actually anything about alignment charts in general, and they all want to be chaotic evil. So shut up. Like nobody knows, okay? And the thing is like doing that in a video game is hard. And that's why also open-ended RPGs also are created too, so you can actually choose and become whoever you want, you know, to role play, to, you know, to the things that you're wearing, to the things that you use, to the factions that you want to join and things like that, right? Even though you might just be like, you know, even though there might not be something that is like makes you good and evil, right? Or I would say maybe even things like WoW or like MMOs, right? Like it comes to mind that, oh, you need to choose a side first, but then there's actually a bunch more of things too. Like the things like games at the end of the day they need to be built in a certain way that makes sense also as a game to provide this option, right? So I would say that your argument, like I say all this because I would say that your argument, Lee, is unfair, right? It's valid, but it's unfair, right? The thing is like a game needs to be designed under certain limitations and certain ideas to actually tell this story. But it will never be perfect, I think. What do you think?
I want to get to that point in a second, because I want to make... There's a game that I want to use as an argument, as an example of how you
that
can
is
have...
well made.
That is well made.
Okay.
Well, a game that does the idea of alignment morality well, by having all three examples of not just good and evil. But before that, I wanted to delve into Infamous a bit more. So there was one choice specifically in Infamous that I had a massive problem with, and I don't know if you played the first one.
I played the second one and the third one.
Okay, so I had an issue specifically in the first game where there was a choice between it was either cold saving his girlfriend or saving, I think it was like 5 random people involved or something like that.
Yes.
And the way that the game portrayed it is that the good option is to save, the 5 people, right? And the bad option is to, save just the girlfriend, right?
To be selfish, yeah.
Yeah. And let me make explicit that they say the evil option is to only save one person. What they do in that game with this choice is that if you save all the people, your girlfriend dies, right? But if you save the one person, they do a bait and switch. So no matter what you do, you can't save your character's girlfriend. So yeah, and it's like the way they portray it, it's like
10.
Okay, yeah. So it's like why on earth would I ever, having this sort of meta knowledge, like why is the developer tricking me in this manner, and why is it so adamant about praising the idea of like utilitarian happiness? Like I don't, in this situation, like I flat out don't agree with it, because like I think it could be considered selfish to want to help only like one person in this situation. That doesn't necessarily mean you're like an evil human being, which is like, I know this is like a really heavy topic, but like
no, it's not.
It frustrated me to no end, right? Because it's like this doesn't mean I'm evil. Like maybe it's just like, maybe I'm selfish, but like, I don't like the idea that a game should preach about like utilitarian happiness, which is like the idea of like net happiness is considered the better thing, because like then they're preaching like Thanos' logic, right? Where it's like get rid of like half the people, just make like the net amount of people happy in the end, which is like horrendous, right?
Interesting. However, the thing is like, for a quick comment, right? Thanos' logic actually comes from more complex motivations. It's not just, right, save one person, or like, for example, or it's like early stages of AI, driving AI, that can actually make a choice between saving an old person or a young person, or a group of people that are inside of the car versus a group of people who are outside of the car in the case of an accident, right? Which is like very, I would say, artificial, right? Like way, like, but Thanos, Melissa, you're gonna say something? Sorry. I think I saw your
kind
hand.
of agreeing.
Okay.
Oh no, I was yawning. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, Lee. Okay, so if you, I guess I'll leave you expanding a little bit more on examples, right?
Yeah. So I wanted to go back to the idea of like picking your route in alignment. I think a potentially good example of the way alignment works within games, by offering a sort of neutral solution, I think the Shin Megami Tensei games kind of offer an interesting way of doing that. Interesting, but not necessarily the most well executed. And I could say this because The way the game works is there are three alignments, right? You have law, which represents security at the cost of like individual expression. When taken to the extreme, law represents a dictatorship within the SMT universe. You have chaos, which represents freedom of expression, individuality. But when taken to the extreme in that, it results in like I don't know what the term. It's like a survival of the fittest kind of mentality where like the weak are oppressed, and like and you have neutrality where it's like it's the most idealistic of the bunch. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the best, but it's the one that tries to blend both of these concepts together in a meaning that is balanced. And I think that series does a pretty good job of doing it narratively, because it represents each of them very accurately, in the sense that if you go neutral, it's probably the saddest of the bunch, because like it winds up having the most amount of bloodshed in compared to like any of the other paths. And it's sad too, because like the quote unquote path to peace in that manner involves like hurting like former friends and like flat out having to kill your party members to just to be able for this to happen. And it's similar for like, I know it's crazy, and like it's similar for the other ones too, because like the entire game is just like a battle of like ideals and all that. And gameplay wise, there's different benefits and mechanics that are involved in this. Like if you're law, you can only get demons that are of the law alignment. Otherwise, if you try to negotiate with them, they flat out cannot join you. Neutral has the benefit of being able to recruit demons from both sides, but it comes at the cost of having to fight bosses from both the law and chaos factions. So you effectively fight all of the bosses, but it balances itself out because you get both more XP and more demons to kind of do it. But this comes at the cost of like not having certain weapons or items available to you because of your alignment. It's the same for chaos as well. You can get various like demons that are only of the chaos alignment. My problem gameplay wise when they do this is that at specific parts of the game, the developers flat out don't make demons of like certain alignments for like certain things. I was stuck in a dungeon for 6 hours because I was trying to create like demons of one alignment, because I'm going the chaos route because that happened to be one of the major choices I picked. And developers flat out didn't have anything available. Like every single thing I could do was like for law. So it's like, why are you heavily incentivizing this one thing and not balancing it out like gameplay wise for this other thing? And it's even worse if you're neutral, because you have to fight 2 bosses in that place, and it's practically impossible, because for neutral you get the weapons that you need after you finish the dungeon. But if you pick, man, I sound crazy saying all this, but if you pick an alignment, you get like the god tier weapon to like take down everything else.
So do you know? If actually going a certain alignments in general, like actually, obviously there are gonna be some parts of the game that are gonna be harder or not, right, or easier.
Yeah.
Right. So
Exactly.
I guess you face the hard part of that alignment there.
Yeah, earlier, but
Okay.
it's like it wasn't balanced out in a manner that's like fair, because like you just get such a shaft like if you pick that one specifically. And it's like, well, my complaint with Mass Effect is you're too incentivized to pick one, but in this case it's like it's not balanced enough if you pick like certain ones at certain times, which is like, shouldn't it be like a reasonable challenge to not have to do like a 6-hour dungeon because you picked like one alignment or
Right.
like moral stance?
Do you guys think that having having the possibility of choosing a side affecting the endings will actually be more I'll guess use the word rewarding, right? Because actually it's just doubling down on your decisions on the adventure that you had, right? Like, because there are some games that actually don't, and just mix a lot of things that can happen. For example, The Witcher 3, like you can have a series of just decisions, like even depending on who you choose to stay romantically, or what you decide to do with Ciri, what you decide to do with certain characters to help you in the battle, depending on the stories that you did and things like that. But it's not necessarily a morality thing, right? It's just like a choice. You always have a choice, right? Depending on what you're doing. Do you guys think that, but the things that affected the ending, but not necessarily in an enlightenment way? Do you think having enlightenment affecting the ending is actually something fair or something rewarding or important?
If it changes a substantial amount of the game, yes. If it only changes the ending, I don't think it's really worth a justified playthrough, And
Okay.
and even then, if it's changing the game to the point of the game being less interesting, in the case of Undertale and its genocide route, where you know, it's quite literally the most mundane thing ever, but you're doing it over the course of like several hours, like I think then it becomes a problem because it throws out balance and it puts all the difficulty at like one point at the very final part, and it leads to a monotonous experience if
I
not
see.
balanced properly.
Melissa, what do you think?
I love the idea of having your choices lead to different endings because it adds to the replayability to me. Because I'm a game completionist when I'm like in love with a game, and I have played other games multiple times in order to kind of get all of those endings in a row. So for me, if I could like play a game 3 times and choose, you know, evil, neutral, good, and get 3 different endings from those, that would be awesome. What would bother me about that was if I made one choice of evil within this path and all of a sudden I get the evil ending, even though everything else was good. So that's where to me it gets kind of confusing because, you know, if I sink 10 hours into a game on one path and then I replay to get that second ending, I sink another 10 hours in, and my last decision throws it to that first ending. It's a waste to me.
Right. Okay. Disco, what do you think?
I think it helps you get into the game more because the flip side of the coin is it's really frustrating when you do something in the game and it doesn't react to you at all. Like a recent thing I can think of is I was playing Skyrim. I'm a vampire and I just beat down these 3 random people in front of a guard, and he's just like, "What's up?" You know, he didn't care. You know, it is disconnecting, and I think they can overdo it when they punish your choices. But I think it needs to be in the game, at least if it's an RPG.
I see. Lee, you want to expand a little bit more on that?
Yeah, so you know, regarding like RPGs, I think they're probably one of the best genres regarding choice within gaming, alongside, I would also say, visual novels and probably adventure games.
Yeah.
I think it's possible to have a sort of system where you don't need to be completely explicit about morality. And I mention this because one of my favorite games, Lisa the Painful, is a pretty good indicator of how it handles its morality system, because it never explicitly tells you that you're either a good or bad person, and each of the different choices weigh in on the varying game mechanics, right? And we see this in like one of the earliest examples of the game. We have a choice where you can either sell out your friend, or you can
Yes.
give away all your stuff, right?
Right.
And you know, there's benefits to each, right? Like if you get rid of all your stuff, then you're not going to have like enough items for like the upcoming things. But if you sell out your friend, then you're going to be down a party member, which is also pretty dangerous in and of itself. And I think it's neat because like the game just it constantly forces you to ask like these questions, like, do I value like myself? Do I value others? Like, where do I stand on this? And it never explicitly tells you. I mean, you have a character that's always telling you, oh, you're a selfish like person, but it's like you can make like the least self you can make a decision with the least amount of self-interest, and the game is still going to find a way to make you feel bad about your choice.
You think
And-
that maybe having a choice that has an immediate effect is more effective then?
I think so. I think
I'm making those choices hard, I guess, right? Sure.
yeah, I think like the sense of immediacy within Lisa is like extremely strong, and probably the reason why I had like so much trouble like deciding on various things. Like at some point there's like a choice where like it's either like, do I sacrifice like several of my friends' lives for the sake of like this character like hurting my character's daughter? I'm like, and I was literally just, the first time I played the game, I'm like, I couldn't make the decision. I took like 20 minutes to even think about this, because it's like, oh my god, like these are my friends, like this is my kid, like what am I going to do? And it's just like the sheer immediacy of just having the gun literally to your head is just one of the most impactful things regarding like morality in that game, because like it puts it in a way that someone's going to get hurt, but it's like, where are you willing to stand, and like what are you willing to sacrifice in order to achieve your end, you know?
Right. I think that
And-
yeah, go ahead.
You know, I was just gonna say, and I think that really highlights the sort of like moral gray area of morality by just having the immediacy and just having the ambiguity.
I see. I think that well, it makes me think of example of dropping you into a game where you always do good, right? And you are expected to do good. And there's nothing that you can do in the game that actually, maybe I'm thinking about, maybe Breath of the Wild, let's say, right? Which comes up in every freaking podcast, right? In Breath of the Wild, you can only attack, right, enemies. And even if you swing your sword at someone that is, not an enemy, fine. They don't get hurt or things like that. The thing is, there's actually not a lot of decision to make because you actually drive the story by just exploring and doing more and, setting your own goals, getting memories, and besides having the main goal of like, oh, I need to go to the castle. There is like a haunted castle right now in the middle of everything that has this monster, and the thing is that you can still do whatever you want, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The thing is like, the thing is like, I guess there's also this, it's giving you this form of choice that you have the choice to do whatever you want to. The thing is like in this choice, there's no decision of I want to become good or evil. It's just this choice is about exploration or pushing the limits of the sandbox, or getting more things, getting richer, or getting more powerful or things like that. You know what I mean? But then there are games that actually drop you, that you're actually, let's say, the bad character, right? That you are, and that I think makes you think of like Darksiders or even Brutal Legend is like in the weird like, wow, Brutal Legend is so dope. Or like games like I don't know, like I can't remember right now, but like the things like you see the do or this or that, like because they want you to to create or craft this story based on the limitations they give you, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is like, do you think? I guess this goes for everyone. Is that okay then? Because, right? Again, I'm bringing my point again. Limitations and the way the game is designed is just based on what the creator want, right? But I'm guessing your point, Lee, is that it should never be either one or the other. It should be one, the other, or in the middle, right?
Yeah.
And you don't want your powers or your progression to be locked by being a model system, right?
Yeah, like my issue just lies in when I feel limited by the moral system, because like I think it's not fair mechanically to just ask the player to just commit to like one thing specifically and kind of like undermine the rest of your ethics just for the sake of like external benefit, or
What would you expect?
extrinsic benefit.
What would you expect that a video game, and this is the controversial, right? What would you expect that a video game should actually treat these with the same importance or the same caliber that it would be in real life? We, considering all the limitations or the entertainment value that a video game can bring, or can actually give a person, or the purpose of a game, which is, I want to have fun, I want a good time, I want to, be someone, I want to, explore this, I want to do that, etc. Why will the creator need to worry about these things? Like, it's just
Like,
a
why would
mechanic
they
at
need
the
to
end of the
worry
day,
about it?
right?
Right, but like it is a mechanic at the end of the day, but like it's I'm one of those people that think that art is reflective of life, right? And I like to think that if a game designer wants to accurately depict the idea of being able to make difficult choices, I think that if they're going to do that kind of thing, they need to go all the way and represent all of the angles that are represented by the quote unquote morality scale, so to speak, instead of just having a sort of like childlike approach that you're either a good or evil person, So I think it is up to the developers to try and ideally just make it highlight the gray area a lot more. If the goal of the game is to include a morality system and not do it half baked.
Melissa, what do you think about when the roles are flipped? Because usually you will expect that, a game, you are the good person, right? And usually when you are given the option to be bad, and let me say maybe GTA, which is a chaos game, right? People will be chaotic, right? Without repercussion, because basically you just go to jail and get out and just pay a fine and that's it. You even keep your weapons in GTA 5, right? But what do you think about like flipping that? Like, do you have any examples of games that you can think of? You know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the strongest example that I would reference here is Bayonetta again, because for those of you guys who haven't played it, you know, when you first start Bayonetta, you find out that she's sort of coming back from like the undead or like the demon realm, or she's like a witch with this contract with a devil, right? A demon queen. And then as the story sort of evolves, you're fighting angels who are the good guys, right? We think of angels and as good guys, and the witches are the bad guys. Yet you are Bayonetta and you're trying to save the world from the angels. So it's like this weird flip compass of, well, what we expect as good isn't necessarily good, and what we expect as evil isn't necessarily evil. And when you kind of get into the second game, there's a layer of figuring out where is sort of betrayal coming from, and you begin to fight your own type of people, and that gets a little difficult for you to kind of absorb yourself into, because you're kind of like, well, I'm on my own side now. So that, I think, begins to branch off into a more of a neutral territory where Bayonetta is out for herself and kind of going in for what she wants to achieve within her life. So I think it's interesting to have those kind of flip-flops within games sometimes.
I see.
But I
yeah.
sorry, I had a quick point on your Breath of the Wild
Yeah.
thought. Could you imagine what a different game it would be if you got penalized by the NPCs for accidentally killing your horse?
Oh no!
Oh my
goodness.
god.
Like how I cried. I absolutely cried when I accidentally killed a horse. And I can only imagine, like, wolves, you know, we like hunt all these animals in Breath of the Wild because you literally need food. Can you imagine what that would be like? Oh yeah, I'm not selling you anything because you killed 10 horses already. Or
Yikes.
I'm you know, like, having a morality system within that type of game would be absolutely detrimental to getting things done.
Yeah.
So I think that some games, it's really nice that you don't have to worry about that kind of concept.
Yeah, it's like two notes about that. Shout out that you can't not kill Roach in any way. Okay, Roach is the best. Roach is always the best. Okay. The second thing is, I'm absolutely against games that kill horses or pets or animal or dogs. Okay, dogs should always revive, and that's why part of why I love Fallout 4. You can never kill dog, right? Compared to Fallout 3, for example. Okay. Actually, so I just want to say that. So Visco, would you say that I know you're a big RPG maniac, right? Beast. So what would you say about having questions of like having choices feel weighted? Like what examples can you bring? At least from Skyrim or something like that.
I think of Dishonored because they don't outright judge you or weigh your choices. Because most of the people you encounter in the game are not good people, and it's up to you to decide, like, hey, do I just kill everybody? Do I just kill the really bad people, or do I just take them out of the picture, without killing them? And there are consequences, because if you just kill everybody, you're causing chaos, because the bad people in charge are the ones keeping, order. So if you just kill everyone outright, there'll be like more of the sleepers and the rats around, more obstacles, to get in your way. But also this little girl, the princess, is watching it the whole time and looking up to you and just, watching how you take care of things. And that's how the ending comes into play, is how she saw you doing things. She'll become like a cold, distant queen, or she'll become a very benevolent queen. I think there's a really bad ending. I can't remember what it was, but I like that system because it wasn't in your face until the end.
I see. But yeah. So, but are you? Do they make you aware that that's happening? These decisions or not?
Yes, but not directly. You'll start to notice like, hey, I took out all these people that were in control, and now there's no order in the world around you anymore. It's not like good or bad. It's just chaos that you leave in your path behind you.
I see. I know you brought a point also of taking judgment away from the game,
Mhm.
right, and leaving the player all the power or all the judging or something, right? I guess that you mean more like in a role playing aspect of like, whatever I do or say, um, what do you mean about that? Like, can you expand on that more?
Like that, there'll be. I'm trying to think of an example, but let's say like you encounter a person who's getting raided by bandits all the time, and you can either like just outright kill the bandits, or you find out that the bandits lost their home and they're just trying to survive, and you help them out, or you can just walk away and let the bandits do whatever they want.
Right.
But there's multiple ways to take care of it, and there's kind of multiple angles of good and bad, and it's up to you to decide your stance on it.
Right. Yeah, I that makes me think a lot of The Witcher, man. Like in general, of like you just presented with problems, right? Again, I bring conflict a lot because right? It's like Game of Thrones, you know what I mean? Like, so you presented with conflict in general, right? It's like you need to take a decision. You are like there, and you as as MX or Visco or Melissa, whatever, right? You are like, okay, I'm playing this character. It can be either representative of who I want to be or who I want to be in this world, right? Or what will I do, right? If this is actually a situation that presents me in real life, I can take a decision actually that's going to affect the outcome, right? And it's just like this more crafted or um, little conflict things that can happen. You're like, okay, this is just a new opportunity for me of how would I react to this, and I think also once they give you the option that it's not just like I think someone was mentioning before, about Fallout 4. Fallout 4 is basically, sarcastic yes, sarcastic no, no and yes. You know what I mean? And that's it. You know what I mean? But the thing is like when they give you an option, when a game gives you an option that it puts you in this situation, it gives you the option to actually choose from 8 different things that you can do, or say also fucking I'm gonna kill everyone. That's the kind of game that I wanna play. You know what I mean? That's the kind of game that I think, okay, or I can be, whatever. I don't care about this. I can leave and just find another problem to solve. But the thing is that at the end of the day, everything is being affected, right? Obviously, you're playing for the sake of, role playing too, and for the sake of developing the story and the sake of like trying to know more, the desire to know more, right? Which I think that the thing is like when I bring the example of The Witcher, is that I feel it's usually unfair because The Witcher set such a high standard in general about what things are good to do in games in general, or like what good impact to have to actually have such a higher such a big production, or taking like long as time to make and things like that, because obviously not every game has to be that way, right? But I guess I like to use it as a good example of the things that have been done well.
I'd like
So-
to add to that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of side quests in The Witcher where you have a moral choice, but it doesn't have an effect on the whole world around you. It's just the effect that your choice leaves on you as a person, which I think is very realistic, because there's a lot of little things in real life that you can choose from that don't have an effect on the world around you. It's just how you feel about it, or how that person feels about it.
Yeah.
Which yeah, I think ultimately makes everything so much more interesting. You know what I mean? Like even when you play a card game, or when you're watching, let's say, Game of Thrones or something like that, where you're like, I wouldn't have done that, or what are the motivations of this person making this decision, and just makes everything more interesting because you are just thinking about their character, or their past, or the conflict they have, that maybe they know something you don't know, right? Which is something that is like what's in the back of their mind, what's it, this is affecting them specifically, or like it's fine, whatever the world is happening, and this is happening here, so Lee, you're gonna say something.
Yeah, there was something I kind of wanted to mention about like the idea of like a moral choice kind of leaving like an impact on the player, and that's kind of like the thing. I think I wanted to like take that a step further and like and ask like what if the moral choice is not made by the player? Like what if it's made by like a party member, you know?
Oh,
And
interesting.
and I wanted to actually bring up going back to Shin Megami Tensei.
Yeah.
I wanted to say that probably one of the saddest moments in gaming, and this actually happened pretty recently. Actually, I had to take like a minute to kind of like understand it. Was that in a SMT you can name your party members, and they're either like a law aligned hero or a chaos aligned hero. I named the chaos hero after you, Marco,
Hit
and
me.
there was a moment so like the kind of driving force of your character is that he was trying to take down like this gang leader because like he's been like abusing and like oppressing your character, and it all kind of wound up in like a quest to kind of gain power. And like you know it was like my choice to like take you along with me because like you know you're my buddy and I want to go on this adventure together. But there was a moral choice made by your character where there was this point where your character was like fed up with like life, and he was just like I'm tired of being weak. And like your character flat out fused himself with like an otherworldly demon.
Dope.
And yeah, and it sounds cool on paper, right? And I was scared because it's like, oh my god, my friend is doing this like really questionable choice where he's forsaking his morality. But the really sad part is that after your character got his revenge and you know fulfilled his sort of like destiny, like I was sad because like your guy flat out left the party, and it's like you made the choice where it was like I'm
Interesting.
gonna like it's like you know I don't need to rely on my friend's power anymore. Like I'm strong enough to like be on my own, and it's like
Actually,
it's
it's pretty
just
dope.
sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was super cool. I've never seen a game do that, and it's just like I like my friend made a choice, and it's like I'm so sad at like this whole thing because I had no influence on it, you know, and it was like the game presenting a moral choice for someone else, you know.
Right.
So
I actually that makes me think also on games that, well, the first thing is that I think that's a very high risk, right, to taking a game, and also a very interesting high risk to taking a game that is like super retro. You know what I mean? Like most games wouldn't do that. Most games.
yeah, this was
right?
in the '90s, like
Right. And I think also that I think it's interesting because that's the ultimate real life D&D campaign thing that it can happen. You know what I mean? That it actually literally, you know, can actually develop to that because again, the character is gonna have a goal and it's gonna have secrets that you don't even know, right? And you discover because you were just like they were your part of your party and you were like doing adventures together and you're like, wow, this happened. I think like they're gonna do what they need to do. You know what I mean? And it feels like I think that's super dope. Like personally, that even though they are with you and they're coming with you, they still have their own motivations and their own you know, goals. And you know, I don't know if the goal is vengeance because this person killed my family or something. And once I do kill this person, I'm done. I don't need to adventure anymore. Can just go back, right? I think that's interesting too. Like I guess it's a nice twist. But also reminds me of in that same note of games that actually decide to kill characters fully. Like I think Fire Emblem does this. If your character or XCOM, right? If your character dies, it died, and that's it. You know, there's a
same for
consequence.
Final Fantasy VII.
Well,
although that's
I mean,
a bit less of a choice, but
right, it's more a narrative thing. But you know, again, it's a very big thing, right? And that actually, I think, again, a big, you know, the developers or the creators took a big risk of saying, well, for narrative purposes, right? We need to kill this character, and it was it has been one of the most dramatic things that are happening in video games. It's like, wow. And I think that's what makes that game, right? Besides the, oh my god, Cloud's such a cool guy, you know, like, oh my god, they're such a cool company, you know, like another thing, that what makes that game, you know, like that conflict, right? It's like, wow, I actually never expect that to happen because you always expect to have your party with you all the time, and you know, you control everyone, right? In general. One last comment about this. I actually do enjoy games more when they actually make me control a single character, even though I have a party. I want my party to do their own thing, and I want to take care, you know, the looks and the power and the abilities of one character because I'm playing as that person. And that's why something that I dislike a lot about Inquisition, Dragon Age, that I had to take care of everyone. I'm like, I don't want to manage everyone. I just want to manage the character that I created. You know, like why? The thing is like, that's a very actually, it's a good selling point for a lot of people. Like, oh, you can control your own party, you can make customizable, you can switch in between however you want. But in my mind, it was also, well, I just care about my character, you know, like, I don't wanna be managing inventory or doing things like that are super annoying for me, right? In general. Okay. Any closing points, guys? Visco, go.
I don't know if they'll ever have a perfect system, but I like having a morality system in games, and especially if it affects the endings, because for me it increases the replayability.
Melissa?
I think one of the talking points I had was the idea of like flopping your morality system from like one game to the sequel, which I want to reference Splatoon, and that's kind of my closing point here. Is when the first Splatoon game came out, they taught us that this other race where you play as what's called an inkling, which is like half squid, half kid, and this other race, octolings, half octopus, half kids, are the bad ones. And then in the sequel, they released DLC halfway through that lets you play as an octoling and unlock that as like your playable avatar within the game. So it sort of flips the whole idea on its head, and it becomes more of an inclusive community to just be able to relate to whatever kind of avatar you feel looks cooler, because they don't really have any special abilities. So I think the morality doesn't always have to affect how the game is actually played or the system, but even having some sort of backstory or back cause as to why things are happening within the game and things are evolving makes it a stronger concept to me.
Gotcha. Yeah, I can see that. I think again, like, make me care, give me some lore, give me some sweet lore, give me reason, right? Immerse me, right? And I think that's very important, you know. Bisco. Oh no, sorry. Lee.
I think, as sort of like a closing thought, I think that morality and ethics are some of the most important things to kind of like teach to people and human beings. And I think that video games are such a very strong and very impressionable sort of medium for being able to convey that to people. And as an adult, I want future game developers to consider the idea of making morality more authentic to how it is in real life, because I think if I were younger and I had played more games that like would help guide my moral compass, I think it would have helped me develop more as a person. So going forward, my only desire is to see developers paint morality and ethics in a more approachable light, because I think there's a lot of good that I can do humanity by kind of like integrating that into games for like a sort of younger audience, so to speak.
Awesome.
Can I ask you a quick question on that, Lee?
Sure.
Did you read books as a kid, like for fun?
For fun? Ironically, no. I didn't start really getting into reading until I got a little older, because like a lot of the literature was kind of like forced back in school. So
because that's where I found I was able to pull that like personality trait within myself, was that I read everything when I was a kid, because my video games were taken over by my brother. It was the kind of traditional roles of the boys get the video games and the girls get the books and the art, etc. So I think that it's really good that you mention that you'd rather that, because there are so many young people now who aren't reading for fun, and video games are a main source of entertainment for them, and to have those is so important, because they might not be getting it from home or from their classmates or from traditional media. So having a moral system within a game can kind of make or break what they think is right within the world.
Yeah, I think also that relates to the last topic too. In general, it's all about like, I think there is a responsibility from every side, right? And I think it's related to that too. That like, whether people like it or not, video games are the main and one of the biggest sources of entertainment, and you know, bigger than movies, bigger than like mostly everything in the world. And I think that and it's not about an agenda or anything like that. I think it's about you know, creating better stories, you know, making people care, you know, and having, you know, taking risks too. You know, I think that's important, like pushing the limits of what the big games can do in general, you know. Let me tell you something. That's an excellent way to finish this, okay? Oh my god, I'm so
this just became like like not preachy, but it's like I don't know. It felt pretty wholesome, I must say.
Yeah, I'll agree.
Yeah.
Super dope. Okay. There's the third topic is brought by this person
The
here.
party animal.
Yes. So this is something very close to, I don't want to say my heart, because obviously my heart is dead. No, but I'm just kidding. So this is very close to me because I consume Twitch as a regular user, as a viewer too, and I consume Twitch in I think also beyond that, which is also I scout people. I force myself to find smaller streamers and things like that. And the things that I would say that, I don't know, like I try to find at least a new person, a new streamer every day, right? At least one, right? I ended up following some. I ended up not following any. I just at least try to go out of my way to find new things to watch, and new people to meet. So there's this thing that has happened, and this is like a mix of opening statement and story, right? Is that there are many streams that I go, even with people that I already watch, normally or whatever, that there are like sometimes, right? We are all streamers, so there are sometimes there is certain chatter, and when I say chat, it's like certain person that is just, they're not breaking the rules, they're not saying bad words and things like that, but they just make me feel uncomfortable. You know what I mean? It made me feel like I'd rather not be here. The thing is, like, and it's not even about the streamer. The streamer might be super awesome or have a good personality or be something dope, like, or something chill, like, I love chill streams too, like I'm that kind of streamer, like, sometimes too, and everything. But like, I'm hanging out, but this person talking, I don't care what this person has to say. You know what I mean? And the thing is, like, and you can say, well, you can just stand up and leave, or no, you can say, well, you can close the chat and not chat. But the thing is, like, I'm there to chat, and that's why I like smaller streams, right? I am there to have a conversation with a streamer, to meet new people who are dope, right? And I have met a lot of new chatters that are like chill and you can have a nice conversation. They're like, I remember even today I was watching Melissa's stream, and there was this person called Drunk Doctor, I think it was, like, having a good time. Oh, you do this, I drop a follow and everything, we're talking, they're not like coming as in, and I'm gonna give some example of what makes me feel uncomfortable. It's not that I'm like, oh my god, that word that they say, because I have been on streams that is like everyone's cursing, I'm fine with it. Like, it's not that kind of like uncomfortableness that I mean. The thing is, like, this happen more often, is more obvious, at least to me, because it's smaller streamers that you can tell you are there to interact. You know what I mean? Like, and that's a lot of entertainment value that you get to. You know what I mean? You get to, I don't know, backseat if you want to do that, or you get to, share experiences, you get to talk, etc. But then I'm gonna put an example, right? One time, I was in this stream of this person that was scouting, right? I actually stayed, I follow her, like, she's super talented and whatever. But then one time, right, like after weeks that I found her, or that I've been following or watching, there's this person that shows up out of nowhere, right? And I'm a mod in that chat, by the way. Like, one time I happened to be a mod because one time, those raids that are silent raids, and people start like asking weird ass shit, and you're like, what the hell's happening? So we one time I was in the chat. It was like literally two people, me and someone else, and maybe like 30 people started like chatting, saying super weird stuff, and I was like, okay, I can help you right now. Just mod me, and I can, I have a good moral compass. I can know when something is like wrong, and we had to ban like maybe 15 people or something, and delete like hundreds of messages, but they left, right? I also switched to follower only. That I thought, like, well, if you're gonna like be trolls, at least give a follow, right? Anyways, so that happened. I became mod then, right? So after that, so a couple of weeks later or something, there was some guy that shows up. I guess it's a guy, right? I assume, right, based on what he said. And he started like flexing in general and things like that. Like he started saying, the thing is, like, I don't care when people flex, right? Because everyone likes to flex. I like to flex. It's fine. But the thing is, like, when you just like bring up stuff that, why would you say this? You know what I mean? Like this person is drawing, talking about something chill or whatever, and you're just saying, oh yeah, like the thing is like I'm better, I'm not better than that, but I'm like I see what's happening, right? The thing is that the streamer is such like a, I would say, like a good person or something. There's no noticing what's happening. Is that the guy is trying to make himself look like the most amazing person in the world, and he's lying, saying that he studied like X and Y, that he has a company, that he like, it's a guy. He's like, I don't know, like it's just some random.
Sounds like a narcissist.
And I'm like, okay, I stopped chatting because it's not breaking the rules, right? I want you two guys to, right? I know it's a long story, but I want you two guys to, like, understand where I'm coming from, right? Yeah. I stopped chatting because she's having a good time, right? Or she's like not having an issue. I am the one having the issue, and he's also there for the same thing that I come from to the streams, is to chat, right? He's also chatting. And the thing is, like, every time now that I come back and he's there, I'm like, whoop, I'm out, because I don't want to be with this person. You know what I mean? And that's where this whole topic came from, right? And that's my story. So you guys go ahead and talk.
I've been there. Like, I've definitely been in like some people's chats. Like, I like the streamer, but like, there's just like one dude that's just there, and I really, really don't like this person, and it's like I don't want to be here because I feel like on edge. And I know it's just like whatever, Lee. It's like a chat room, but it's like, I don't know. It feels tangible, I guess. It's
right.
just like
exactly.
I know, yeah, and it's like it's hard. Like, I definitely have the perception that like I'm definitely a firm believer that like your stream is like the equivalent of like, your home / like your couch, and like I personally wouldn't want to have someone on my couch that makes like someone else feels like super uncomfortable, because I don't think that's cool.
But the thing is, I wouldn't go out of my way and tell her this guy's flexing or this guy's lying or I feel uncomfortable, because she doesn't, and he's her stream. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the way I take it is like it's my own problem, right? The thing is, like, also then it makes me self-conscious that as a streamer, when I have people in chat, maybe that's happening to people too in chat, in my own chat. But I'm not gonna go and I'm not gonna go and ask, how do you feel? You feel comfortable right now? Is everyone like doing like, because sometimes I might have like 3 people, sometimes I have my 10. Like I don't know what's happening. You know what I mean? I'm there to entertain at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Or talk about dope shit. I don't know, or my face. You know what I mean? Like, But the thing is, like, I don't know. Like, it's just weird. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I actually had that happen to me last year. I think it was right around this time last year. I got like a direct message from someone who I've known for since before I started streaming, for about 3 years now. And he was like, so-and-so has been trolling in these chats, and he was banned in all of these other chats, so you should ban him from your Discord. And I was like, oh, okay, kind of like taking a step, because I knew this person pretty well who had messaged me, and he wasn't the type to just randomly say, this is what's going on, ban this person. Like, there must have been a reason. So I reach out to the streamer who had banned him, who I've also known for almost 4 years now. And I said, hey, what happened? They explained the situation. And I reached out to someone else that had said they banned him. And they were like, nope, it's, his account got hacked and it wasn't his fault. And I said, okay. And at this point, I messaged my mods in my Discord, and I'm like, well, here's the situation. I don't really know who to believe, so just keep your eye on him. And I wrote back to my friend and I said, I don't have enough evidence to say that he actually did what everyone thinks he did. So for now, until something comes up, we're going to leave it as is. So then things sort of evolve, and something else comes up, and he started like posting, like, not quite cry for helps, but that
questionable
type of
stuff.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah. So I took the initiative to just kick him from my server. And he sent me a message, and he's like, hey, why aren't I in your server anymore? And what's going on? And like, really like over and over. And I said, listen, this is the situation. This is what made me uncomfortable. This is what, and by this time I had also had like 2 or 3 other people message me about him. And I was like, this is what I've heard from other community members, and I can't just let it go. I said, I would love to have you back at another point if you figure out what's going on with your accounts. But more and more opportunities, you are saying your accounts are being hacked. If you don't have two-factor authentication set, that's on you. So you at some point have to own whatever behavior is happening within your accounts. And I'm not going to be responsible if that comes into my server. And yeah, this was more Discord than Twitch, but you know, the people who follow me on Twitch are in my Discord server. So they're interacting with the same people. And it turns out now he's actually completely gone from Discord, Twitch, like deleted all of his accounts. And was, as far as everyone within the community, not mine, but like the overall game community for this game knows, was actually responsible for all the things that he was saying he wasn't. So, you know, you're always going to get like toxic people out there, and how, like, I want my chat, like you guys said, like we always get self-conscious about, is there somebody who's making other people uncomfortable? Like, I want my chat to tell me. I want to know if there's an issue with someone. I want to know if, you know, what's going on. And sometimes I have mods who overreact to some things, and I've heard from the people they ban too, of, hey, I didn't mean what I said like that. And they come and they apologize to me, and I said, my mod overreacted, like that specific comment was fine with me.
I'm guilty of that. I'm a mod of other channels, and sometimes I will react. I think sometimes I'm being overprotective, or like, how can you say that? You know what I mean? And then I done. Or like I delete everything you say.
You come from a good place.
Exactly. And that's what I've said too, you know, like, and me as a mod for other channels too, I do the same thing, and I'll like delete comments, especially in the competitive gaming side. If I'm a mod for any of the channels that are hosting tournaments, and I see someone say like, you're bad, or, you know, you should quit, delete. So
Auto delete.
Yeah, for like no reason, somebody started like put FUC in chat, and then 2 messages down FUCK, and then a third person. I just deleted all 3 of them. I'm like, this doesn't need to become a copy pasta within a competitive tournament right now where there's over $300 on the line. Like, why? And that to me is the same type of thing that it just gets like, people think it's like the basis of trolling. People think because they can hide behind a screen, they can say whatever they want, they can do whatever they want without meaning to be a troll, right, just because they like are trying to get attention sometimes. Yeah. It becomes a really frustrating situation. And
Yikes.
Can I bring something up? I think it's actually like really good that we're talking about, like, you know, viewer/chat culture, because I think it's interesting because all of us needed to sign an agreement for Twitch just to be like an affiliate, but like you don't need to like sign any sort of agreement to be like an idiot in chat, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, seriously, dude, I'm sick of these weird people just like being socially awkward and just making others uncomfortable, including myself.
Technically, I mean, when you create an account, you're signing a terms of service, right? Like legally binding, which says XYZ, you don't do all these things. But I mean, you also technically for Twitch need to be what, 14, right? 14. And how many viewers are constantly saying they're under 14? And like, as the streamer and mods, if someone comes into your chat and you start talking about age is actually a restricted subject under Twitch guidelines. So you are not supposed you're not allowed to ask any of your viewers how old they are, and they're not allowed to ask you how old you are. And you can't talk about age. If someone says in your chat they're under 14, you have to ban them.
Yes,
really?
Yeah, and you can actually get in trouble from Twitch. In the case that you don't, your account can be banned and temporary banned. And I've seen it happen with bigger streamers. You know, like I've had people come into my chat and say, oh yeah, I'm 12. And I'm like, well, whether you're joking or not, unfortunately, according to Twitch, I have to ban you. And
I've seen
you know, like, yeah. And
on your own
it
channel.
Sucks. Yeah, you saw it. I think you were there that day that people were talking about it and they were memeing. And I'm like, guys, stop memeing. Like, I know how old most of you are that are talking about this, but you need to stop right now because I don't want to have to ban you from my channel.
I didn't know that the whole subject of age was actually restricted. I thought it was that what I do in mine is that if you are under 18, you don't have to tell me what age you are. also, you don't need to tell me what age you are, right? I remember when I started, I had someone that he said, "Oh, I'm gonna turn double digits," and I was like, "I'm so sorry." Yeah, he got wrecked. He got wrecked.
Is it really against the? So I'm sorry. You go.
No, that's my story.
Okay. Is it really against the terms of service to even discuss age? I thought it was just like if you're under 13.
No, it's against the terms of service for you to discuss age because it falls under the giving personal information out.
Oh.
I see.
So, like, you are not allowed to give anyone else's personal information out or ask anyone to give their personal information. So, like, technically, it's wrong for me to say to someone, "Hey, I have a hard time pronouncing your name. Can I call you by your first name?" Technically, that's not allowed either, you know? Like, because that's me volunteering that person's personal information. If they say in chat, "Hey, this is, what I want you to call me. My real name is me." I introduce myself, Acid Sunshine. Please call me Melissa, because I know people have, like, they feel weird calling me Acid Sunshine, and they've said that multiple times.
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh, well, Sunshine seems like a pet name, and Acid is weird, and the whole thing is a mouthful." So, like,
yeah, I think Melissa rolls out of the mouth easier, So.
Yeah.
Although the things I also do it because I know you're fine with it too.
Yeah.
Right?
And I mean, even within the competitive community, I've casted for like 500 viewers sometimes, and I literally call myself Melissa, and when I say hello and goodbye, I say Melissa, and everyone in chat knows me as Melissa. If people see my tag, they're like, "Oh wait, sometimes who is that? Oh, that's Melissa." Like,
right.
So I think that connection becomes built, but yeah, there's a lot of these weird terms of service things. Are you looking it up too, Lee? I see your eyes moving.
I'm looking this up.
Keyword. While you guys find
13. Okay, so 13.
Right.
Yeah, 13 is what Adrillian says.
Visco, go ahead, my dude.
So I think there's two perspectives to this: you as the streamer, and then you as the viewer. For the streamer, it's just kind of up to you. I know, like, you need to have good minds, but then you also need to decide, like, how you want your chat to be. You can't please everyone, and you just need to decide where your stance is. I really respect the streamers that just take the zero tolerance stance, and they just ban anyone for just stepping over the line. It's, like, "Hey, sorry, this isn't what I want." I don't know if I could do that every time, because you just, you feel guilty about it. That's what I have to say about it as a streamer. But as the viewer, I can't say I've ever had that problem, but there's a streamer I like to watch where I just don't resonate with the chat, but it doesn't bother me. I'll just, do my little thing in the chat and not really pay attention to it and just watch the streamer. And you just got to decide, like, hey, is this community for me or not, and not feel guilty about moving on, because it's Twitch. There's got to be someone out there for you.
There's a million people out there making content.
Yeah.
I don't think it's awkward to just let go and move on. I think a lot of people do have a hard time with that, but it's just.
Don't you think that, like, I think it's dope when you find that hidden gem and you're like, "Wow, this person is so cool," and you're like, wanna be there and see them grow and be part of whatever. Like, even though eventually that if they grow too much, obviously chat is gonna be crazy, but like, that's part of it too. Like, I don't, like, for me, I don't even follow, as I said before, like, I try to find new people every day. I don't even follow all the people that I find, or maybe they don't stream at all, like after 3 months, right? I'm like, wow, it's actually the person it streams in a consistent schedule. They're have a good time. I can listen to it when I'm working or things like that, or I can interact here and there. Like, I don't want to say, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna find someone else." You know what I mean? Am I crazy? Like,
no, that's just, I think that's just personal taste. I don't think there's a right or wrong to that perspective. It's just how it makes you feel.
Right. Feelings, yes.
Yeah.
I have also here. I have here that even though I made the example of this story, or at least I came up with a topic based on that. I have obviously more examples with that specific people, And I think also that can happen also when, which I do a lot of collaborations, at least with Lee or with Adrenian, for example, in chat that, or I don't want to say right now this, because this actually is like the interaction with chat is more limited, right? But the thing is, like, I don't want also, I'm self-aware that I don't want someone like to be doing a collaboration with someone, and then someone comes to my chat and say, I don't want to listen to the other person. I came to listen to you, right?
People have said that?
No, it hasn't happened to me,
Oh,
but
okay.
I was there when it happened to someone else, right?
Thanks.
And for me, it's like, wow, like I never thought about it that way. Like when, like this, I guess this is also part of the, I don't want to say risks, but part of the, what it means to do collaborations, to have people chatting with you or things like that. There's like many streamers that also to break out of like shyness, they bring their, hey guys, let's play video games, let's do Overwatch or whatever, and we can play while I'm streaming, whatever, and I can be talking, right? So I'm not like there silent or whatever, right? I understand that, even though I have my opinions about streaming like Oversexualization games, but I understand that, right? But then if someone discovers that person and then they're always, hanging out, or not paying a lot of attention to chat, or paying attention to chat, but I guess that problem can raise. You know what I mean? I want to know what you think about that. If you have done collabs in general, I guess we all have in a way. But what do you think?
I've
Nothing?
done I've done
No,
quite a few
Okay.
collaborative streams. I find, especially because I play a lot of Splatoon, or I had been for a very long time, it's a very easy game to stream with someone else, because you team up and you're playing a shooter, and however long. I find it varying kind of levels, I guess, of it, that there are some times when I'll collab with, like, one of my very good friends is a partnered streamer, and he and I stream together, and his chat is going 1,000 miles a minute, or he has 120 viewers and I have 20, and then like he's constantly like answering his chat, and I feel like I shouldn't kind of be responding to my own because they're like less viewers, but then I feel guilty that I'm not responding to them. So it sort of like makes me feel a little uncomfortable sometimes, is how do I quite react and tell these people that I want to say, like, acknowledge that I just got hosted or that I just got a sub. So sometimes I'll just like mute myself on Discord for him and talk to my chat and then kind of go back to it, which is something that I see a lot of bigger streamers do often when they're multi-streaming, because that's kind of their easiest way of doing that. But there's some things that are avoidable too, and a lot of times I urge whoever I'm with to have the multi-stream up and, like, set up, whether you're using Khadgar or what is it, Twitch Multi or whatever the Twitch version of it is, have both chats available so you can kind of see both of them at the same time, and then it helps you to sort of keep in the loop of things, and that to me is like a smoother way of handling it. But when I stream with people who are of the same view ratio as me, it's a little more comfortable for me, because then I feel like we can all talk to our chats together, especially because usually those people are the ones who are in my chat all the time. They know everyone already. It's the same people in both chats. So, it's more of a joint community effort, I guess.
Right. I guess it gets to a point that everyone knows each other, right? I guess it happens with me and Lee and Adrillian. Wait.
Yeah.
With me, Lee and Adrillian, that our communities know each other, and like we're familiar with what we do, and there's like many viewers that are like, okay, I like you three, guys, like I like the vibe of all of you separately, and you create also a that nice vibe together too, which I actually always appreciate. Like that's the kind of thing that I want, right? Like obviously. But it's hard, like it's complicated also, because again, I guess you can't please everyone, you know what I mean? Like it's gonna happen, like I was gonna say before that as a streamer also, you are like, well, Even though my goal is to entertain, I want to make sure that people are having a good time, or that people are listening, or I don't know. And the thing is, like, I wouldn't pay attention. Like, I always, as a streamer, when I'm in that side, take the positive intent all the time, right? It doesn't matter if someone is trolling or not, or if someone like is making a bad joke or a distasteful joke or something like that. I will take it always the nice way. I'm like, laugh at it, or take the right approach. Even though I have people like make other people uncomfortable, and I didn't notice on the moment. I'm just like, oh no, let me listen to this person, what they have to say, or things like that. Because also I do believe in not censoring automatically too, right? At least in my stream. I think I have had to ban only one person on the spot on the whole time that I have been streaming.
Wow.
Good for you.
But that's it. The thing is, like, I remember, well, there was one time that happened that someone that brought something weird, and I actually challenged more. I want to say, maybe the word is not challenge, like, talk about more like what was their goal and their ideas and things like that. Even though people actually disagree with me on chat that the way I did it, people said you need to ban them. You need to ban those kind of people who come to troll you and say, well, I believe in second opportunities too. I believe on redeeming yourself, and I believe on that people actually come seeking for attention. And there's, like, depending on their age, right? They're gonna do it different ways. But also, it's also my job to talk to them and say, what do you really want in life? Who hurt you? You know what I mean? Like, but the thing is, like, it's not gonna be a therapist. Is that I can show them what my community is about. It's about having a good time. You know what I mean? I don't necessarily they don't necessarily mean bad, right? I guess it's complicated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think you were actually in my stream that day. I had someone come in. They asked some kind of like troll question, and I responded really like candidly and honestly. And their next response was, I was planning on trolling you, but because of how you answered that, I'm following instead.
Yes.
And they hung out for like 25 or 30 minutes, and they were cool and chill. Yep. And I was like, oh, damn. Thanks.
Pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think someone that is a troll is automatically a bad person. Or they're not malicious automatically. The thing is, like, it happens more often than what do you say, than normal, right? That they want to do bad, or they want to see a reaction, or they want to offend people, or they want to, because they find it funny, right? There's no other reason, right? They find it hilarious, they find it funny, they find it entertainment, and that's what they want. They're trying to entertain themselves in a manner that is either toxic or childish or juvenile, right? Or like not cool. You know what I mean? They're being dicks, basically.
Yeah.
Just for the fun of it, yeah.
For the lulz, yeah.
It's definitely like a healthy balance between, like, I guess I don't know if sincere trolling is a term, but like, I guess if it can be like playful, then I guess it wouldn't really be trolling. But like, I don't know. It all depends on like the severity of it, because some people just like their personalities are like 80% like trolling / jokes, and it's like 20% like actual human being and not like Reddit spit poster, so to speak.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think yeah, go ahead.
I just want to kind of like segue into an example I had of your topic that we sort of talked about like when we were going over things, that I met a streamer through Instagram, and we were both doing art, and we were both doing a charity cause. So when the charity ended, we had decided we would like co-stream together, and like we got to know each other pretty well. And I really appreciated a lot of things that she stood for within the art community. And I felt like this was very positive for me because she was pro, all the things I love. She was body positive. She was pro, shape is sexy, and everything that I feel like is underrepresented within art. And a strong female standing up for other females. Then as like she got bigger, her chat sort of begun to evolve into this constant space for people who were misidentifying with themselves, which I think is great. To have a space like that on Twitch is fantastic. But then it became so much so that everyone felt they were uncomfortable in their own skin, or, just unhappy with like who they were as people. And that made me feel ostracized because I was going to their stream because I really appreciated what she stood for as a person. And then she turned out and she said, well, I'm going to trans into a man. And I was like, that's great. I'm super proud of you. But I felt a little lied to because the whole time she was very, I'm proud to be a woman, I'm body positive. And all of a sudden, that wasn't what she was saying anymore. And to me, that felt very alienating because everyone was saying, that's great. I wish I could do that. I wish I could afford hormones. I wish I could do this. And I was like, I'm a straight female and I'm happy being that way. And I am so happy that everyone else is ready to discover this, but I have nothing to contribute to this conversation. And that was always my response when everyone was saying this. I was like, I'm really happy for you. I'm exactly happy that you're doing what you want to do, and yay, go for it. You know, like, but that's all I could say. So I ended up actually stopped going to their stream. I unfollowed them on Twitter because I didn't want to have to see the political tweets that they kept pushing, and I stopped going to their stream. And it really hurt me because I felt like maybe if the streamer had controlled the atmosphere of chat more, where it wasn't that every single day I went there, this was the topic, maybe I could have found some comfort in it. But that wasn't the case. It was always, this is the only thing we're talking about. Right. And it's an art stream, you know, like we're drawing mermaids and unicorns, and that's what I loved about them. So I'm really, really happy for them. And I feel like this is exactly what they want and this is what they should be going for. That's fantastic. But it really hurt me as a viewer because I felt like I didn't belong anymore.
Right. Let me ask you something, if I may. I obviously, you know, it's a very specific case of, you know, this thing that happened to you, and I don't want to ask something that, you know, like, or no, it's not related. Actually, I say I'm gonna ask something. It's not related exactly how you felt, right? I guess like as a third party, right? That I'm seeing like this, you know, these events, right? Let me ask you, for example, this: do you think, or would you agree that maybe that's not the way to ask? You think that no, the way I see it is that my first impression, right, is that maybe the reason why they were going body positive and everything and all that, it was a way. The thing is, like, again, I cannot relate in any matter of this because I'm not a woman, I'm not trans, or you know, right? The thing is, like, what makes me think is that maybe they were saying that, you know, trying to, you know, to think that, or trying to be comfortable with who they were, but actually they realized, no, I actually want to be trans, like a man, right? And I want to transition, right? Right? That's like, for example, one taking that in that, right? But I do actually agree on the content changing, right? That's not the content that you came for, and there is nothing else you can do. It's like, well, you know, I'm happy for you. You can do whatever you want, and that makes you happy. That's dope. But your streams are not the streams that it used to be anymore, right? And I guess that's the aspect also that, you know, related to the topic is that even though that the things that before the chat will make you feel welcome, but not anymore, because it was about something completely different, right?
Yeah. I was even a mod in her channel at one point. Like,
oh really?
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
that's how well I knew her. And that's why I took it like so personally when everything changed. And to your point, you know, that was sort of my first thought too, of maybe this was the kind of idea of like project your feelings that you want to feel instead of how you actually feel, of being projecting body positivity because you don't feel comfortable in your own skin. And then they had tweeted after they started taking hormones that they had felt this way for years and years, and finally had the courage to talk about it because of Twitch and because of all the support. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like, again, very unique actually case, and again, it's very complicated too, right? Because at the end of the day, I will say that at least the way I consume Twitch too is that there is no denying that people come to Twitch to be entertained, and there's no denying that seeing people who are partner and big and everything is because they provide a level of entertainment that brought them there, right? And people, that's what people look for. Like, that's like, again, it's like the dream is big, right? People think it's just playing games. No, you are being an entertainer, you're creating content, and it's there's a lot of things that you need to do. You know what I mean? And I guess, like, in that matter is that changing your community or not transitioning, like, having any specific community when you start, at least when, I consider myself a small streamer, is that if I have, these specific, goals of my community, or this specific way that I stream and things that I say, and then something happens in my life and I actually start saying, I have like a big, charismatic personality, or like I'm loud and whatever, or I, just say like, fuck you to everyone, like, that's completely different. You know what I mean? That will be, obviously I'm talking about extremes here. But the thing is, like, that first crowd that followed me in the beginning is gonna be like, what the hell? Like this is not what I come from here. And basically you need to rebuild your community from scratch and accept that people are gonna leave.
Yeah.
Dope. Lee, what's up? What are you thinking?
Sometimes I wonder, like, sometimes I can't help but wonder if I'm, like, afraid of the idea of expanding, because, like, I feel like, a stream really is defined by, like, obviously by the streamer, but it's also defined by its community. And, like, it's weird because, like, personally, I'm in, like, a super happy place where I am now, because, like, I'm really happy with, like, both my average viewers, like, the people that are there, like, because it feels like, we're all just, like, one happy family. And I can't help but wonder if, like, when streams expand, if, like, just the entire vibe of it is just, like, I don't know. I think about, like, the impersonalness of it, and just wonder if, like, maybe the impersonalness of it will just feel weird to, like, everyone else because of, like, how large a community can become. And it's just, I don't know. It's a reasonable concern as a small streamer, because, like, half the fun is just, like, engaging in, like, fun stuff with, like, all my buddies, So
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I agree.
Closing thoughts. Visco.
There's two things I want to say is you should never feel bad about not feeling included or just not liking a community. I think you do yourself a favor just to realize it's not for you and move on. And the second is, coming together and then coming apart is just a part of life, and it's very natural for that to happen. Even with people you really like, you or them will probably change down the road, and it's just to be expected.
Yeah. Amazing. Melissa, closing thoughts.
I think we can constantly, as streamers, try to maintain the community that we want to be a part of. And as viewers, we have to maintain that too. That, we, even if you're not a mod somewhere, you can still kind of interact with everyone in chat and talk to people and be really excited with everything that's going on, and to an extent even kind of correct someone who's flexing in a chat that you don't think they should be, or might be making some kind of comment that isn't necessarily inclusive or lending itself to the right vibe that you're going for. And we have to, just like we would in society too, like, if you saw someone reaching into someone's pocket on the subway, you wouldn't just ignore it. At least I wouldn't,
Right.
Amazing. Lee, give me up.
I guess closing thoughts. As streamers, I think we should all strive to take care of our stream, our chat, our community. I think it's good to have a sort of conscious effort, you know, with the police.
Oh, I'm so sorry about this. It's New York.
It's all good.
Yeah.
But I think it's a really good thing to be conscious about, like, the idea of both growth, expansion, community, making sure that everyone feels welcome, just and trying to, most importantly, just make people feel comfortable. Because I want to reiterate that I'm a firm believer that, like, your stream is essentially like your home away from home, or like your couch, your virtual couch, and I think it's an admirable thing for streamers to try and make every single guest to their stream feel welcome and comfortable. So,
thank you very much. Yeah, I think it's complicated. Like I understand, and again, I hopefully, like, these are I think about these things a lot. About there's also, I guess, the concept of again, I want to reiterate, like, mostly what happens to me is nobody's doing anything wrong, right? And it's more about how I feel, right? That at the end of the day, because I'm consuming the content, right? But I don't want to make a big deal about it, right? It's like, like, I don't want anyone to be kicked out or anything, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I also want the streamer to have a good time. The same way I want to have a good time too when I have my chat, right? I think these things are, I don't know, worth thinking about. And all I guess that's how, I don't want to say warning, but it will happen, like, if you start streaming and you decide to stream tomorrow, eventually, things like this, might be something you can think about, or you can, like, make the connection or the relationship about the, what streamers do on, what they experience, and, who are you as a chatter, and, what you bring up to the conversation. Awesome. So, how you guys doing in time? Good?
yeah, I'm ready for the final topic.
Yeah, I'm ready too. I know we have been here for a little bit, long time, almost, yeah, actually 3 hours. But we finally arrived at the last topic, and I want, to give Visco the floor. Visco brought the topic of corporate culture's effect on game production. I wanna, I would love you to say your opening statement, and what you think, and your point of view, examples, whatever you want. Go ahead.
All right, so this is something that just makes me feel sad when I think about it, but it's, major gaming companies are the now, and they're buying up all these, intellectual properties for gaming, and I feel like their focus is on quick and massive profit, and it affects the quality of the games, because when you're looking for quick turnaround, or you're looking for massive profit, you're not looking to take that chance. You're looking for something that's sold before, or is going to do good. And that's sad to me, because a lot of the games of the past were when someone just took a chance and threw it out there, like Mario. And I feel like if this keeps on this way, we're just going to get kind of the same game over and over again, or IPs are just going to get abandoned entirely, just because there's no feel that there's going to be profit in it.
Okay, awesome. I think to that point, I think that the problem gets bigger and bigger every year. Or now, like, the things, like, I think a way that they think that they like, big companies, that to alleviate the problem, say, oh no, we're actually thinking about the game. We're actually gonna release in a 2-year schedule instead of 1-year schedule. And you're like, okay, like sure, but the thing is, they're gonna still be releasing the same game. Like, you can say the same thing about sports games or Assassin's Creed, which I'm not saying like the last game was bad or anything, or for Call of Duty or something like that, right? And the same thing is, look at the big problem that happened with Battlefield, right? Battlefield was like the FPS king, and they just kept releasing the same thing, right? Even if you give a 2-year thing, the thing is like, what are the things that they're doing? They are trying to say, oh yeah, you just buy a $60 DLC for a year pass or whatever, and you're gonna get content every 3 months, and then you can keep playing it a little bit more, and then we're gonna release another game the next year. You know what I mean? Okay, I'm like, okay, you know what I mean? Or they're gonna be like, oh yeah, the game is gonna be awesome. We're gonna take 6 years to make, actually our publisher is EA, but oof, it's trash. I'm talking about Anthem, right?
Yep.
Like oof, like wow, I had my hopes were so high with Anthem. It's just F. Oh my god. Anyways, I'm so sad because the things like conceptually is like, again, like they made me care with the trailers. It's like, oh my god, I want to know about the lore. I want to know. I get into a suit and I can customize it. Okay, it's actually 4 suits, like fucking 10 different type of weapons. Loot is trash. The world's
So
not that big, and you're like, okay, I can fly. I'm Iron Man right now, but that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, oh my god, I don't understand. But the thing is, like, again, they want always something bigger and bigger, and the bigger and bigger is not the answer for the consumers. But the thing is, like, to be devil's advocate is that bigger and bigger means, in a way, to be more accessible and more streamlined, or a more to reach bigger audiences, to reach more people, right? Which makes sense for profits too, but also I do like when new people or new gamers start playing games that they have never played before, because now it cuts their attention, because let's say From Software, make games that became really big and people want to try Dark Souls, and I have never played a hard game in my life, or I have never played a game like this, and now I'm trying because it became mainstream. You know what I mean? And I think that's part of the positive thing. And I'm gonna give you an example of Pokemon before giving the word to Melissa here. But one of the last podcasts that we had, we were discussing about how actually Pokemon became easier. But I think it's just Pokemon became more accessible, right? There are many things that they're removing that they're just annoying grind, right? Because the grind actually comes from breeding, right? Which is something that you, or not me, or the regular 12-year-old is not gonna do. They're going to just play the game, and that's what I want to do.
My
I want to
favorite
get
part.
Yeah, I want to just like get Pikachu.
Really? It's the
Yeah.
most tedious part for me.
I
Right.
love it.
Right, but the thing is, like, they made a game that everyone can do. Everyone can follow what they want to follow, right? If you want to get all the shinies, you can. But if I don't want to get all the shinies, and you want to get, I just want to get, I don't know, Pikachu to level 100 and beat the elite, I don't want to know. And I can do that. You know what I mean? I think that's also good. The thing is, like, there's again positive aspects of becoming bigger and negative aspects, which is like reducing quality or releasing unfinished games, right? So Melissa, go ahead. What do you think?
I think my biggest concern and worry on this, which is something I thought of just in the past, after talking points, is the idea of the season pass and this concept of free to play, and what happens when every game is free to play and now we're paying for content on a tri-monthly basis, and we end up sinking $200 into a free to play game over 1 year, and then a new version that's what scares me so much, is we go from this idea of, and I worry because we see it happening within other media, right? So it started in TV, Netflix, Hulu, etc. Channel, pay channels, you can choose which channels you're paying for on regular cable TV. Now it's going into software. Adobe is probably the biggest problem with it, and no one is contesting this as a marketing plan. And you have to pay $59 a month if you want to own Adobe, and it's when you look at it on a month-by-month basis, it's cheaper than paying the $3,000 to own it outright, but I'd rather pay that one price. Now you're telling me I can't buy a $60 game for $60 and play it until the end of time, but I'm going to have some sort of subscription service? And it's not an MMO where I'm dealing with other people, but it's I'm
Yikes.
terrified that is going to become what we see. And I like to believe that some of the intellectual properties that I've grown up with and that I love playing so much won't go this route. But all I think about is a Breath of the Wild style game where, okay, you buy, it's free to play, but if you want to unlock Akala Tower, you have to pay $10. If you want to unlock this section of the map, you have to pay this much. If you want to unlock this one, here's another $10. And all of a sudden you're paying $200 because you want to complete the game. And as a I call myself like a game completionist, that scares the crap out of me.
Yeah.
That is my biggest fear and worry with all of this corporate takeover,
Bullshit.
if you will. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to add on that if I can.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like Fallout 76, where they obviously
Yep.
patted down the monetization before they even really had a game under
Yep.
their belt. I mean, it spells disaster when you go too far, and it's just sad. They ruined a
is.
game that could have been great.
Oh,
Even like the huge backlash that EA had when they released Star Wars last year,
Battlefront.
right?
Yeah.
Battlefront, because literally like they right away within the first month they pulled all their loot crates, right? Because
Yep.
everybody was saying like the game is unplayable without paying, and we've already paid for the game because it wasn't a free game. So that's why I see this as spelling disaster. And I think microtransactions have their place within gaming culture, but I don't think microtransactions have their place within every game. And I don't think we should be like 2017. Yeah. So 2 years ago, to think that it was that long ago, it was like now 2 years ago. And then from that, everybody's okay with Fortnite doing this. Everybody's okay with all of these games saying we're gonna charge you $20 every 3 months if you want to get the best experience from this.
How much is a season pass in Fortnite?
I think it's
40?
like $19.
Does it have different tiers? Or is it just one?
Just one. They give you like your season pass comes with I think 7. I never remember how many, 7 or 8 weekly challenges. But 3 of them are free. You don't have to pay for them. So like if you're just playing, you get 3 free challenges, and you can get a certain amount of things from that, but you can't unlock the $10. Okay, so yeah, so sorry, not 19. Thank you, Adrillian. All the knowledge, I love it. $10. So, but at the end of the day, like, if you can honestly, I want to find one person who can get through playing a whole season of Fortnite by only spending $10.
Right.
Oof.
I think
I can't. I can't. I fully admit they have me hook, line, and sinker, and I hate it. But it's adorable and cute, and I'm the worst player at that game ever. But I have so much fun, and I
Lee.
play almost every day.
Lee, what do you think about this?
Oh, I'm so
thing.
passionate about my hatred of free-to-play and microtransactions. Oh my god. Okay. I don't know where to start. Okay, free-to-play games, I hate them with a passion. I don't like free-to-play games because
Don't talk
they're
shit about
hard.
Warframe, okay?
I will talk shit. 'Cause I think that game is awful. My biggest complaint about free-to-play games, they're completely designed with the idea of abusing player psychology in mind, similar to microtransactions, in that the experience basically delves into a point of how long can I play this before feeling reasonably frustrated by how long it takes to either craft a weapon, unlock a character, or any of the above, and just cave in and slap my credit card on the table, right? Because it's absurd how long you have to wait for some of these things, and it's absurd because some of these games are designed around that with the intention of that. Examples, let's see. League of Legends, I played that over 700 hours. I don't have every champ. And that's kind of a big deal for a game that is heavily revolved around champions. Let's see, what else?
I don't wanna turn your excitements. I wanna leave you finish.
All right.
But,
yeah, I'm
but
waiting for
remember
a
the
counter
topic, right? Remember the
Yeah.
topic. Okay.
Yeah, it's related to like
However,
But-
League of Legends Riot has been very controversial with their bullshit. But
right. From that, like the time is relevant to profit because I could either play the game for a long time or I could just, put my credit card in and like buy all these characters. So it's absurd how much they ask for each character. I think it's like $10 for like one of the more newer ones, which is like
Yeah.
you can't reasonably expect me to do
and
that.
skins are more expensive.
Yeah, like some skins are like what, $50 or like a super
No,
like
the thing is, a premium
legendary
skin
one?
can be $20 or 25.
Yeah, there's some that are even more premium than that. And it's the same for like other games, like Rainbow Six Siege. Like spent over 800 hours. I don't have all the content for playable stuff. And it's just ridiculous because, like, I understand like the need to make money for like a game, but why has gaming culture devolved into like something where simply releasing a complete product isn't enough, that they need to like keep going past that and try to like milk this cash cow for like everything it's worth. It's like, I could buy a novel and that's a complete experience. I can watch a movie and that's like a complete experience. So why are we so tolerant of this like of this nonsense within gaming? Like why are we so okay with free to play culture by having a system of have and have nots that of uh of like what is it for like paying for our content, right?
Do you
It's
think if they rise the price of games to, let's say, $150, let's say a game like Final Fantasy 15 that's gonna give you 100 hour plus of gaming delish, right? Do you
no one
agree
would buy
with that?
that.
Would you rather do that?
No one would buy that. It needs to be priced like more reasonably.
Do you think 60 is fair?
I think 60 is more fair than 150.
Well,
It used to be cheaper for
$0
certain things.
is fair too, right? More fair than
Right.
right? But the thing is, like, I'm talking
You
about,
get
like,
the
right?
60.
I guess I'm taking the stance, I would say, of as a product designer, I understand the notion of creating a game as a product. That, it is what it is, and I think we also need to accept that games are not just, oh my god, this niche interactive media thing that I'm like, it's just this company in Japan that makes game and we played it. It's not like that anymore. Again, as I said before, it's the biggest industry and needs to be designed as a product. And what that means is that it needs to be profitable. It need to make sense to make the investment. If you're gonna have 200 plus people working on it because they need salaries, right? And and they're gonna put this thing together to sell for $60. But the thing is that, again, I'm not saying $60 is not enough or is too much. What I'm saying, like, for example, when I see, for example, oh yeah, this game has sold 10 million copies, let's say a single player game, and it's like, wow, that's $600 million, right? And that's without counting, obviously, that's like, it's not, I think the word is revenue, not profit, right? Because
Yeah.
it doesn't count the
Revenue is the
expenses,
total. Yeah.
right? Obviously you don't count the marketing or the salaries you already paid or things like that. And the thing is, like, well, there is a part of me that I'm like, I get it. Well, I don't pirate content because I get the effort that is put into games. But I also have the choice of not buying anything that has a price further than $60 if I pay $60 for it, right? Even if the content is super dope. Again, it's offered as an option. And I want to put an example, right? Like, The Division 2, everyone thought it's going to be a flop, and it wasn't. And they do have a store and microtransactions. They're all cosmetics, though. But the thing is, like, if you put in contrast Division 2 with, for example, Destiny, and Destiny, I think, there was a big focus, an obvious focus on Destiny 2 on making the dopest or big stuff to put it on their, paywall, right? Or rolling dices, right? Which is like, more awful, I think, is that they actually don't have to. If they actually craft a game, if they actually craft a game that is dope, and they still put microtransactions or DLC or something like that, I'm like, okay, I get it. The game is dope. Do whatever you want, right? But if it's not, if it's a piece of trash or it's incomplete, then that's when I have more of a problem, right? You know what I
The
mean?
microtransactions become a problem when they're merged into the gameplay, and this can be seen within, I believe it was the newest Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and also in, I believe it was the new Shadow of Mordor, where at some point you basically need to either grind for an absurd amount of time within the game, or you can simply pay money to get past that sort of grind because the game arbitrarily locks you out. Because if you don't have enough experience, you literally can't even start or finish the game. Like, it's not like, oh, it's gonna be hard. It's like, no, you
Sorry,
literally
which
can't
game
do it.
again is this? Sorry?
This was for, I believe it was the sequel for Shadow of Mordor, and it was the new Assassin's Creed Odyssey or something like that.
Well,
And it's like, that's a problem because like this is the like game mechanics and game design, right? Like this is the definition of like an exploitative like psychological process that companies are affecting their consumers with, like it's just, I have a problem with that. And like my personal feelings with like the system of have and have nots and free to play is whatever, but like I also just, I don't like it when that's like the primary means of like profit for companies, and that, like, I get it, I understand like the need for that, but there's a reason why people spend like $200 on like cosmetics and stuff, right? Like people want to like look good. There's an inherent need to want to like look the best you can, right? Like, why do people spend several $100s on like suits and all that? Like the same applies for gaming,
Right.
and it's even worse when it's in like a premium product that has microtransactions like Overwatch.
Yeah. Well, I think the contrast, the example that you made, the analogy, I guess, buying clothes, like, well, you're buying goods and, you know, you're making also an investment, like a suit can last you for years, right? But maybe you might not play a game for more than, I don't know, 500 hours, let's say, if you're lucky. But should people think about it that way, as in, how many hours of content or, you know, gameplay is gonna give me for the game to justify $60?
I don't necessarily think that's the healthiest way of doing that, because I think if anything, like the quality of the game should speak more for its price value than anything. Because I've played some games that are like quote unquote have several hundred hours of content, but like that doesn't mean it's engaging. It just means there's more of possibly something tedious to do. And I say this because one of the best examples I can think of is that, think of a song, right? You're trying to be entertaining. Song artists have to be entertaining for 4 minutes, right? A video game has to be entertaining for much longer than that. And I would rather pay more money for like a shorter, cohesive, or more replayable experience than something that's like going to last a long time, that it's like whatever, like the feeling, like it rises and it just, it's gone,
Yeah.
So
Okay. Bringing back a little bit back, right? The subject a little bit,
Sorry.
right? No, it's
it
okay.
is relevant to profit though.
No,
so.
no, it is. It is definitely is, and because I guess it's part of the culturally of we need to make more money. So the obvious answer is to add microtransactions, right?
Yeah.
Right. But so you will say that, Bisco, would you say that? Can you expand a little bit more on culture in general, right? Like, do you mean like bad business practices, like people like crunch hours, people sleeping in the office, like things like that, or is it more like a bad things that are actually harmful to gamers ultimately, like the DLC content stuff?
I think it is kind of, I don't know, I like to say sinister, but it's the corporate culture aspect of it. CEOs are making like crazy percentages of income compared to the rest of the employees, and I think there's a lot of causes to the issue, but that, to me, that's the worst of it. Like, your CEO doesn't need to make 5,000% of what your average employee does.
Right.
A game might make $600 million in profit, and then your CEO makes $100 million. That's 10% right off the top, just for one guy. I think to me, that's the worst part of it. But also, they're just afraid to try things is another part of it. Like, hey, we have a system that works. It's worked for other people. Like, what do they call it now? Like Warframe, where you don't pay outright, but you keep paying. It's like a game as a service.
Yeah.
is what they call it. And I am so glad that God of War came out, when people are having that discussion, like, hey, are we going to just have subscription games from now on? And then God of War just comes out as a complete full game, and it's amazing, and it made a ton of money, and it kind of disrupted that conversation that we're having.
Absolutely. I think that it has proven wrong and wrong every time that people say, oh, the future of gaming is multiplayer. No, I don't think so. Like, I think there's room for there's like room for so many things and so many stories to tell and everything, that, and so many different cool things to do, to have fun, to be like I think they're just trying to, what's the name for this? I think it's confirmation bias or something like that. That is like, makes you are thinking just because one thing happened, you're using this example to actually back up your argument. You know what I mean? Like, oh well, this game is a multiplayer game. Fortnite, a year ago was the most popular. It's like right now in top 3 or whatever, or Apex or whatever. Like, yeah, I mean, these games are multiplayer and they're free to play, and they have a business model that works. We need to just make games like that. I'm like, okay, I'm absolutely fine with big companies dying because they think that the only thing they need to make is bigger games. I'm fine. Like, the thing is, like, there's a romanticization of the idea of, wow, this company used to be so big. Look what happened to Konami because of greed, right? Like, this can happen exactly the same way to what happened. It's gonna happen. It can happen to EA. It can happen to Blizzard, because Blizzard is like so proud. Like, oh, look at the games that we have, the games that we make, and whatever. I think ultimately, people are gonna speak. People are gonna let them know, exactly what's happening. It's like, we don't care. Like, if you wanna, the things like at the end of the day, if you wanna cater again, these trick kids to actually, get their parents' wallets and or purses to pay for this stuff, like, sure, by all means. I mean, not by all means. Like, keep being evil, right? But you're not gonna trick myself. You're not gonna trick me. And that, I guess, Melissa's initial point is that you mentioned about being scared or like cautious, right, about how things are going. But I wouldn't feel so much of a I think I don't know, like I'm feeling more positive about it. I think that personally, I think this actually gives room to creators to actually make games that are gems, that are like they define the new generation with indie games and etc. Things like that. Smaller companies saying, okay, obviously we just want to create a dope game, Obviously, I understand, every company is for profit. I understand that. I'm a capitalist. You know what I mean? Sure, I get it. The thing is, like, there are smaller companies that are gonna come and say, yo, I want to make this dope game, and this game winning awards and being like not being $60 and being like becoming
Well
mainstream and things
designed.
like that, and well designed and dope and redefining genres and things like that. I think that's gonna keep happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And these big companies are gonna be like, oh, keep making whatever, keep making Apex or whatever. I don't care. Dude. Like, dope games gonna keep coming. Also, the whole retro library is still there that we can go play. You know what I mean?
It's true.
Yeah.
True.
I think the best part about indie games is like, it's what you mentioned, right? Because it's like it's economically sound, like compared to like the AAA stuff. It's like, I trust the indie developers a lot more than like most AAA at this point, and I say that as like someone who is not in like a super financially stable position at this point, because I can still get entertaining games for like good prices, like Hollow Knight. What is that, like $15 for one of the best values in gaming? And I think it's just like the values that like indie developers have compared to like a lot of AAA companies, right? Like I understand like both of them are for profit, right? But like I feel like AAA developers in certain scenarios, like their for profit relies upon the idea of possibly exploiting player psychology to get that profit with microtransactions and whatnot. Whereas in the indie department, it's for profit more like for a means to like make like a good product that doesn't have to rely upon like these tropes to become successful, right?
Mhm.
And we've seen that before. We've seen it with Hollow Knight, we've seen it with Celeste, we've seen it with Shovel Knight, and it's just
Oof.
I think it's the different values that I can agree with regarding
Yeah.
Stardew Valley.
Stardew Valley. Yeah, that game's incredible.
Right. The thing is also, I feel right about Nintendo still too. I think Nintendo doing some good shit. The thing is also Nintendo handling how they handle DLC is actually very fair. How they handle it online, even though they don't know anything about online, but they handle it online is good. You know what I mean? It's fine. Even though I have to use my phone to talk to my friends, good thing I have my PC next to the monitor that I used to play, because yikes, Nintendo. Okay, big yikes. Reggie, I know. By the way, today was the last day of Reggie at the company.
Oh, yo, isn't the new guy called Bowser or something?
Yeah.
Rip.
Dark times for Nintendo.
It's part of the lore, But I think Nintendo, like, I have never felt a single time that I buy Nintendo game that I feel, wow, I shouldn't have spent $60 on this game because the game is trash. It hasn't happened once in my life.
Mario Party.
Oh no, I don't.
Maybe
play Mario
the
Party
first
this way.
one.
No, the new Mario Party.
Is it trash?
That one looks disappointing.
You can only play with Joy-Cons, and they didn't tell us that until after the pre-orders opened, and I had already pre-ordered it
Oh,
and paid for it.
Wait, you can't play with Pro?
Nope.
Big yikes.
well, it's because
And
like,
there's
the mini games
no-
revolve around the Joy-Cons now, like the
Yeah.
specific movement for them.
And there's no online multiplayer.
Oh, I'm more
Yeah.
disappointed with the
That's
ports
what the
and
reason why I didn't buy it actually. Because what's the point? Like online, Nintendo, like online, console, friends.
They don't know. They don't know how to do.
They don't
online.
know. I don't think they have the infrastructure, and that's what's happening.
No,
Right?
I agree.
But again, I'm talking about like whole package, right? The IPs, right? That Mario, Zelda, Samus,
And that's the
etc.
important thing, right? Because like a console or whatever is like defined by the software that it has. So
Right.
like,
Mhm.
and just
That-
think about like the Virtual Boy and like the 18 games that were on that. Think about like And think about like what was it, like the Super Nintendo, like that game is defined by like all of its classics.
Oh my god, the library is so freaking amazing, dude. It's like PS2
Yeah.
too, like and things like that. It's like
Oh my god, there's so many good PS2
there's so many,
games.
right? Anyways, Visco, would you like to expand a little bit more? For the record, we are at 3 hours and 30 minutes in, and we need the outro still. Okay, so
Okay.
I will consider closing thoughts, right? Even though I know we have a lot more to say, but we can go for 4 hours, right? Because we gotta work. Okay.
Yeah. So closing thoughts. I don't think it's necessarily wrong for companies to seek, profit. There's nothing, bad about that. I just think it's sad the effects of seeking maximize profits have effect on our favorite, IPs or potential games. And that's why I'm glad indies exist. But the indie developers don't have those major IPs, so we're kind of seeing our childhood franchises die.
Right.
And that's just
It's a
depressing to
shame.
me.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. I agree. Like, even though we can accept it, it's just sad because, again, I'm still sad. I mentioned Konami because Konami, I have talked with Lee about this all the time, that Konami has such many good IPs that they just wanted money, man, and you look what happened. Anyways, Melissa, closing thoughts.
I think my closing thoughts have to actually bring up this like devil's advocate point of view. I think all the things that we've said are valid and terrifying and make me feel sad about the way of the world and the economy of video games. But when a big company is running things well and they are kind of considering the greater good within the gaming society, they also are able to create more jobs, create more visibility for gaming, and allow more money to continue to funnel into the scene, which goes back to smaller developers and like creates this kind of endless cycle of good, if you will. And I think that that's the positive to having a large corporation, because look at all the indie games that are on the Switch. We talked about how Nintendo is doing it really well right now. They still have a very wholesome bottom line at the end of it all. Yeah, they're charging $20 for internet that DCs you from most of their games 5 or 6 times in an hour, but they're working on it. This is the first time they've ever charged money for an internet service. So I think that they're still really trying to make sure that the gamer is their central focus. And I hope that other companies kind of continue to do this. And we worry about a lot of these corporations. And actually, sorry, I have one extra thought for this. I worry about Microsoft kind of the most within terms of big companies. And this is like kind of sidebar, but one of the things I think they're doing that's working really well. I had the privilege to visit their flagship New York City store last Thursday at a panel that they held, and I got a tour of their streaming room, and they have a free area for up to 20 streamers where anyone who's living in New York City can just sign up to go stream from their area.
I want to go.
They have PCs loaded with all like Microsoft games, and they have Xbox One S or whatever, One X, whatever the newest one is called, all like set up there with amazing studio headphones, keyboards, mouse. I was like, this is phenomenal, and this is what companies need to be doing to support streamers, to support independent growth within gaming, and people who don't have access to that type of thing. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I agree completely. Mr. Lee, go ahead.
I don't know. I'm trying to like think of a way to phrase this without sounding like an angry person.
Like an old man.
Like an angry person.
Yeah, like an old man, basically. I think. Look, I'm gonna be real. So I think the best way for us to not see habits in gaming that we don't like is the best way possible. Vote with your wallet. If you think something is bad, if you don't like a trend, don't support it. I don't support microtransactions. I did it for a brief period. I don't do it anymore. I don't like the idea of free-to-play games. I don't support that. If there's something you don't like in gaming, vote with your wallet. Don't do it. If you do like it, vote with your wallet. Do it. I'm not here to like preach But I'm just saying these trends continue because they're working financially, right? And the only way we can see that change is to like have an impact as a consumer and do the thing that you agree with. And in my case, that is going to be continuing to support indie games because I respect and love the heart, soul, and values that go into them, as opposed to how the state of AAA gaming has become, aside from like I guess Nintendo for me, because at the end of the day, I care more about the IP than most of these companies. Like, I want to see good art be created, and I want to continue to see good art created, and I will continue to vote with my wallet for that. So,
So, well, guys, thanks a lot. Yeah, great closing statements, and we finally arrive at the outro. Oof,
questions
what a
for us.
what a
Let us
night,
know.
man! What a night. Yeah, I think it was good conversations all around. I think yeah, it was dope. Right? What do you guys think?
This was probably the most wholesome one yet. I think I was the only one who got like salty.
Yeah, I think
I
it was
got
great.
I got a little heated there, worried about like, chat interaction and stuff. So
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I had a really good time. I love doing these things, and even though I get a little bit stressed out, over the week, like thinking about we need to get people, we need to get the topics, we need to get do that. It's worth it. You know what I mean? It's dope. And you can get nervous at the beginning. I'm like, oh my god, I get it. Like I was telling these guys before, wow, like I actually start feeling like anxious like 30 minutes before, and I need to breathe. I need to. If you see me, like we actually can see each other before we start, and I'm like, you know what I mean? Like I bring myself together. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, we have all stream, and it's just I'm just like, obviously, I want it to be run smooth and for people to talk, right? And I think when it happens, it's dope. Like we have sometimes that, today or other episodes, like people, just want to come in and talk, and they're like, okay, do that. Like I don't want to talk, like you guys talk, because this show is for you, and this show is for the community, and basically, that's what this show is about, and that's how we have today Melissa and Visco. Well, I say acid sunshine. Is it acid in English?
Mhm.
Not acid? Are you
Acid.
serious?
Acid,
Yeah.
Acid.
Oh, I have been saying it wrong all the time.
That's okay.
Acid sunshine. And Visco. That's why we have him here. Lee and I find people. This time, I know I invited Visco and acid sunshine. It happened to be this time. Like, yeah, but we're gonna redeem ourselves.
We're gonna mix
next-
it up next time. Cause,
yeah,
I
next
got
time
two
we're gonna
of
mix
them
it up.
going up for that one.
Yeah, we're gonna bring a Lee's crew or Lee's scouts. But yeah, I wanna thank everyone. So guys, what I do usually is go to the comments, and I thank everyone individually. The thing is like, it might take 1 minute or two, so I need to find. Okay, I found it. So I like to usually in my stream I go to everyone who chatted and I thank them for being in the chat. All right, so I'm gonna do that now. Also, while I do that, if you have any extra questions, we have 2 questions one from Ember Birdie and one for Snip Offing. I don't know how to say his name. Well, to answer real quick, okay? But I'm gonna go to chat if you have questions now. Now is the time. Erica in Harmony. Also, thanks a lot for all the hosts. Castor died for the raid. Castor died is also an awesome streamer that I found that he does like he his whole thing is like helping smaller streamers, like helping them to kickstart, giving the right tips, having a nice wholesome critique and being to the point. He's awesome, so give him a follow if you can. So let's see. Eric in Harmony, Zachary Gamer 64, Kaiura, I think, or Kai, right? I'm not gonna mention you guys' name because you guys complex. Thank you for the host. Adrillian, obviously, as always. Let's see. Thai Espresso, my man. Visco, you're right here. Let's see.
I think.
Ember Birdie, Jalapeno Pepper. Let's see.
Love his name.
I know.
Mhm.
The old is Jalapeno Pepper. Weston. I saw that people got hype when I say grills when I was saying. I don't remember why I said it.
Gosh.
But it's just mean value. I'm sorry. I call it. MacGyver the Hero. He was a previous guest too of the podcast, of the talk show. I mean. Let's see. Snip Offing. I think I reached. Oh, Lomos Maximus. I saw also before.
Oh, Lumos showed up?
Lumos showed up for a little bit. Yeah.
Yo, the boy.
Yeah. There's a good backstory of Lumos actually.
Mhm.
Let me see. I think I got everyone so far in chat. Also, thanks a lot for the lurkers, obviously. And it's always a blast. And I appreciate. I'd rather have 10 people viewing and 0 followers than 1,000 followers and 0 fucking people watching. It's the best. Your voice lifer. Oh my goodness, I missed him. Your voice lifer is
Just like
also
us
a previous.
Mm-hmm.
He showed up. I guess he was lurking, but I saw him comment. He was a previous guest too. So yeah, Lumos is here. I see him now. Yeah, I think. Okay, good. Complex, obviously. He gave the raid. He talked a little bit there. Yeah. Thanks a lot for the conversations in general. So now I'm gonna go to the questions real quick. Okay. So Ember Birdie asks, question: doesn't the oversexualization of women in video games also depends on the developer's target audience? Maybe we actually went over this in conversation, so we don't actually have to answer. In the past, the target audience was usually teenage boys or young men, but now female gamer numbers are so large, developers must also consider them as a target audience to make money from their games. If anybody specifically wants to answer this, a quick answer. Anybody wants to do it?
Very quick.
Yeah.
They still are not considering female gamers as part of target audience. And I think in the coming years they will. But when you look at the intellectual properties that have been put out within the past fiscal year, we're not being considered still.
Okay, so Steam Muffin asks, should Rockstar not be telling a story that they want to tell because they should include a female playable character, which could and probably would alter the story and character dynamics? I'm actually going to answer this, right? This is a loaded question because it's implying that after they create the story, they will add someone female and then need to alter the story. No, the way that it works, right, as a product is that while you are creating this story, you include the female characters from the beginning, and then you create the story. Easy. Done. Okay? Well, I do agree, though, that he made a comment before that there was like some backlash also on having, because people said, well, there are three actual characters in GTA, and they're all men, right? And they have the option to do a female one, right? And dive more deeper into that stuff, but they chose not to, for whatever reason. But I think people just forgot about that, right? I guess that's where his questions came in, right? I know he didn't come from a side of being trollish or malicious, but I'm just saying that usually how product design works is that, like, it's not, let's not say it's after the fact, like you just take GTA 5 that's already created and add that. You will take GTA 6 and think about that, right? Dope. So okay, those two questions, that's good. Okay, so what I want to do now is give everyone some time at the floor, so you can have, you can say whatever you want. You can promote your channel, you can promote what you do, you can promote your Twitter. It doesn't matter. Whatever you do, this is the time to actually promote it, to sell yourself, to to go crazy, special projects, things like that. I want to start with Visco this time, actually.
Okay, I'm Visco. I am an achievement hunter, and that's mostly what I do on stream. But I also do and say extremely absurd things while it's all happening. And if you like just trying to laugh the whole time, I definitely recommend trying to come by. And that's about it.
Dope. Melissa, I want to give you the floor to you.
Sorry, I'm replying to this.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay.
I totally typoed all of that. Sorry. I, as Acid Sunshine here on Twitch and Acid Sunshine with a double E on Twitter, I stream variety games now with a focus on Nintendo, and I like to laugh a whole lot. I hope that you guys want to come check out some content. I would love to have you. It's mostly daytime, so
yes,
see you there.
I can catch it at work, so that's why it's dope. Actually, I want to tell before I give it Lee. before I give, Lee, I want to hear what you want to say, okay? But I want to say a little bit story how I know Visco and Melissa, right? Visco, I met him through, I think it was either HBR or, what's her name?
I think it was HBR.
Through HBR, right? That I think we're just hanging out. I had a month. I will always mention this month of like what I call my networking month, which is I met like most of the people that I interact with on Twitch, or that I, how everything expanded and how this idea came from was in November, when I actually got affiliate. That I actually went ahead and just start finding new people and making, watching things and, making, being active on chat and, networking, etc. And I have met like a lot of wonderful people, and Visco is one of them. And his stream is super chill. Like I say usually, it's like always when I watch Visco is that I'm working on something, Visco is the kind of voice that you want when you want to chill out. You're like, okay, I need to work. I'm going to hear Visco, I'm going to work. Because usually when I watch him, I'm building Game Boys and etc. There's a funny story with Melissa, actually, how I met her in real life. Actually, I was with Overner. And Overner, it was like, I think it was like the Switch was coming out, or Zelda or something. Like
it was about to be the Switch, yeah. It was like the day before the Switch was coming out.
So it happened that we worked in the same building. Well, she used to work in a company, and then I used to work in another company there. And I was talking to Overner, and he was like saying, talking about the Switch, and he left. And she was like, you guys were talking about the Switch, and I was like, yeah, and then we started talking from there. And I remember you telling me you modded for someone, and then after that you started streaming, and I was like, oh my god, you stream now, that's super dope, I'm a big, I'm still a big lurker. I come in when I can because I'm at work, but super chill, super wholesome, okay? So please, give it the opportunity, okay, to both Visco and Acid Sunshine, right? Lee, my man, go ahead.
Before I, do my whole spiel, I wanted to say this has probably been one of my favorite podcast episodes yet, or talk show episodes, because like it's been super chill. It has been an absolute pleasure to work with you, Melissa and Visco. This was super cool. So thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, collective dab. So hey guys, I'm just Lee Belmont, Vampire Hunter. I'm really into the Castlevania series. I do a lot of speedruns of those games. The big things I do on my channel, every Monday I learn a new game to speedrun. This week I wound up learning Mega Man 10. I was pretty happy with that one. In the big things I do on my channel, speedruns, I do casual playthroughs, and I do the occasional writing stream. So if you are interested in cozy stuff, hardcore stuff, creative stuff, then check me out.
Lee, as I would say, he says also, is the real couch experience, right? I just want to invite Lee to the couch and Lee, just play some games. You know what I mean? That's Lee gets a lot of flack. Oh, listen, why Lee gets a lot of flack? Because he's too wholesome, too pure. The soul is too pure, okay? And it's true, okay? I wouldn't be working if he. Right. I know you do. I wouldn't work with someone that is not dope. So there you go. We're working with Lee, so do whatever you want with that, right? Got him. Guys, so yeah, I started streaming when I came back from Japan, and I was so inspired by, I met this Game Boy model that I was like, I'm so mind blown for one of the things that you do. I asked him so many questions, and he's like, I asked him, do you learn this? Where did you learn this from? He said, from the internet. And I was like mind blown. I was like, when I came back home, I was like, I need to learn this stuff. I learned it, and I was like, I need to show everyone what I just learned, because everyone should have a modded Game Boy, right? And I was like, you know what? I started streaming. Overden helped me with a lot of that. And I got affiliate in like 5 weeks or something like that. And the stream has turned more into gaming and more into the concept of community and positive and nurture and having a good time. You know what I mean? Chilling out. And I think that's I'm happy that it has evolved to that. That is like this podcast is part of that. That I want to do is like have the right representation, have give opportunity to people, like make everyone grow together, network and things like that. And I think that's awesome. I do play games. I do stream like 4 times a week, etc. I have done Game Boy, but there is something new that is coming that obviously spoiler I can say. So this podcast talk show. The goal is to bring small communities together, and I usually have like I think like, well, if you have 2,000 followers, you know, even though you can bring more people, it's not that small anymore because you have like 30 regulars, you know, 30, you know. But the thing is, like, I'm not judging, obviously, but the thing is, it's more about, you know, it's like it's smaller, right? I'm not saying we all have 0 people because that would be rather lame, but we don't. Like, and I think that's a cool thing, like bring everyone together, discover new people, which is part of the experience that I have mentioned before, that I enjoy doing on Twitch. You know, discovering like the hidden gem. You know, inviting them to the podcast, and it's like everyone should know about this person because they're dope. You know, and yeah. So if you want to participate, you are absolutely welcome to do. We have slots open coming. You know, we do this every 2 Mondays, every other Monday. And we have a document with all the documentation. I'm going to add a panel below so people can click and go directly to the document. Right now, I'll ask the people to join Discord or write me on Discord, and then we can talk about it. We had someone actually wrote in chat after the first episode one time. They say, I want to be in the podcast. And the next episode 2, they were on the podcast. So it's that easy. Okay? You just need a mic and a camera, and that's it. Right now, a topic. Right? I think, you know, we have learned how to do it better. We have learned how to, you know, at least, you know, drive more the conversation, or, you know, add more level, bigger level of professionalism, which is something obviously, you know, that is part of the production that we want to bring, even though it's for, you know, so it's like, you know, obviously it needs to be, you know, amazing, right? Because we need to take care of it, right? We need to water our plants, okay? So the other thing is, yeah, Discord, we have giveaways, mini reviews, social feed for myself. Obviously I'm promoting myself now, right? And collabs and stuff like that. Collaboration happens there, co-hosts and things like that. Like we do that all the time with Lee and Adrillian. I'm down to do with any other people, like as long as we have the time. One last thing. Since it's for the community, by the community, the music that you listen today is by 2 people, DJ Coleman and Vince Nitro. And Vince Nitro is actually a viewer of mine that is not mine anymore, right? You know, like he is part of all of our communities. That he actually produced many of the songs that I played tonight, and I was very stoked to ask him, you know, to get him to have his music, and the only thing he has, just plug my podcast, and I say absolutely. So his podcast is The Trail Went Cold, available on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. Actually, I have a link for his SoundCloud, which I'm gonna post real quick here. It's like he has super dope stuff. So check it out. So next podcast is Monday, April 22nd. At 9 p.m. EST, same time. And guys, thanks a lot for. Oh, I need to make a command. Thanks a lot for being here with me. It was super dope, and have a great night.
Thanks so much.
Take care.
Take care, guys.
Good
Take care, everyone.